At the age of 12, my mom and dad instilled in us at a young age, when you work, then you work, and to understand how the government works, you pay taxes. So, looking back at that, you get those statements once a year. This is what you paid into the system. This is what you're, be eligible for at retirement. So looking at that I think it's $168 my first tax return, which at 12, that was a lot of money.
You were rich. Yeah.
1972, that was a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
So from that point on, growing up where your family's in business. So my dad was always in the building business, had a number of other business operations. So from the age of about 12 on, if it was during school, after school, you got picked up, and here's a job we're working on. It needs to be cleaned up, swept out, whatever. Here's the broom. We'll pick you up at 6 o'clock or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He was also on the retail side where we had deliveries to make within the community. So my brother and I would do the deliveries after school. Also moved into some other areas that were more of interest to me. A friend of mine, we had a airplane detailing business at the Vero Beach Airport. Like aviation, I'm a big aviation nut.
Yeah.
So being around planes even more and getting to taxi them around the airport was just great for me. So then moving into that area in business, having a good understanding of it. Every year, our summer vacation was planned on a family project that we did, whether it was build a house or something, and then those proceeds helped go towards our summer vacation every year.
Wow.
And my dad always made it a point to take time off during the summer, and we went to some great places. We drove all the way from here to Calgary, Alberta, Canada. That is a long road trip.
It is, and it's beautiful.
It's great going. Coming back is really long.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of other great family trips that we had taken. But my dad always made time during the summer, which was the slow time for business, and he would spend time with the family. So from business wise, my interest kind of really moved more into the building industry side. So at the age of 19, I became one of the 5 youngest persons in the state of Florida past my residential contractor's exam.
Wow.
So in 1981,
that's not an easy exam, especially for a 19-year-old.
At that time, it was a 2-day full written test. It was very comprehensive, everything from business management, insurance. The construction portion was very detailed. And then I believe it was 1983, they got my general contractor's license that placed where you could build any type of structure in the state of Florida. So my dad, having been in business, building doing another of other business interests, we started to grow the building side even greater. Than my brother came into the fold, and then that helped us grow even more. And over our time, we built about 700 construction projects in the Vero Beach area. Those range from single-family homes to apartment buildings, small retail, warehouses, business operations centers, where we would build a particular facility for, whether it was for the marine industry or something like that. So using the background that I learned from my dad, plus being very active in the National Home Builders Association, they had a very good educational program partnered with the University of Florida. So I took advantage of that, where not being a traditional student where you would go for a semester at a time, you would go for 4 days, 12 hours a day, and they would take in condensed class schedules. It was called the Building Construction Institute, partnered with the University of Florida and National Home Builders. So you got a lot of education in a short period of time from the same professors that taught the 4-year program at the M.E. Rinker School of Construction at the University of Florida. So using what was available through education through our trade association, the home builders, and then also realizing at a very young age how regulated our industry was, got me involved in government affairs, dealing with everything from lumber tariffs on Canadian lumber, the spotted owl that changed the availability of lumber and what it would do to the prices of lumber and all the homes we were building. So that kind of got me into my government involvement, as well as being my first time bringing an issue to the county commission was about 1984. And it was actually on a way to streamline fire station construction to save costs, as the newly created, at that time was called the South County Fire District, was just being put together. And I wanted to stretch the tax dollars as best we could. So I partnered then with Commissioner Grover Fletcher on a concept that was not fully adopted, but it's nice to see over time that parts of that have been adopted as we move forward.
Fantastic. I notice like you're always, you have all these facts that you spit out constantly. It's pretty, it's refreshing to hear that, because you have this head of an encyclopedia and you don't refer to any notes. So you just kind of rattle off stuff, and I like that. When we're talking construction, there's a guy, and this is going to get off topic just a second, but it deals with construction. There's a gentleman in town, Steve Meyer, right? He belongs to the Republican Executive Committee. And I don't know if you've had a chance to sit down with him. He's done a study on, So
it's very, very insightful.
It is. So what this study is, the lower the home prices become, and the higher home ownership becomes, the increased probability that Republicans get elected. So it's a completely different way of looking at elections and how Republicans can win. So if prices of a home become affordable, Republicans get elected because more people buy homes, and now they have a stake in the economy. They're paying property taxes. Now they're more focused. Whereas somebody who's paying rent,
they don't see any of that.
They don't see it. It's all built into their rent. They're paying for it. As a renter, you all know that. It's just you don't get to see the breakdown saying, wow, I'm paying X amount of dollars for school, X amount of dollars for a hospital. What do you think about what do you think about that?
I think he's right on it. And if you look at, let's say, the state of Texas, the home ownership rate, the growth of Republican registration, and you look at what I call the housing affordability index, what does somebody make and what type of housing product can they purchase with their income that they make? And in Texas, your dollars just go a lot further relative to your income. So let's say if you're let's just say in a service sector employee job in Texas making $50,000 a year. Well, if your cost of housing to buy a starter 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a community is only $150, that's a 3 times multiple of your family's income.
Right.
Here, if you looked at, we may be a little bit lower than the 50, but our cost number is probably 250.
Right.
So the multiple is a 5 versus a 3 in Texas. So, and when people see what they pay, trust me, when the trim notices go out and people see their tax bill, you hear from the property owner. You don't hear
from the renter.
I don't think I've ever heard from a renter complaining about property taxes.
Right. Actually, I was talking to a renter, and they were saying, I don't pay property taxes. I said, well, actually you do. And and they said, how? I don't get a bill. And so I don't pay it. And I said, well, let me explain how it works. Your landlord, if they have a mortgage, they're paying a monthly mortgage payment to a bank. They get property taxes are added to that, insurance are added to that mortgage. So if they're going to make any money, they're going to have to increase, any amount over that will be their profit for the most part. Plus you have wear and tear and vacancy assumptions. But then they pass that on to you, and that's why you're paying rent. So if property taxes are lower, your rent per month would be lower. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Sempre Vivo, and this is the Rhett Palmer Show. In studio today, we have Larry Sempre Vivo, and we have Commissioner Tim Zork, which is up currently right now for re-election. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Yeah, no, Steve's right on that statistics.
Yeah, I love that.
When you look at where your Democratic demographics are, you look at your core cities, which are all apartment rentals for the most part, and they don't see any of that stuff. So they don't go berserk when they see their tax bill because they don't see the tax bill.
And I have a question. How did they ever approve those apartment buildings across from the mall? I mean, the traffic that's going to create on both highways.
It's no negative externalities.
Oh,
People
my
You
driving.
mean behind Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything has to have a traffic study.
Right.
So you have to show how you're going to manage, absorb. We've also built in Go Line bus stops for there because we move 1.1 million riders a year on our local bus system. For our population, Fort Pierce is double our population. They move half as many people. We just have a very good public transportation system. It's close to the college, so we think we're going to get some walker commuters, that are living there, walking across the street, going to the college. So
Almost like a dorm.
Yeah, they have 1-bedroom studios, 2-bedroom, and then I think 3+, like 3+ a den type of thing.
Reminds me of a project, a big thing like you should see in Philadelphia, low
Low
housing.
income, but it's not low income.
No,
right?
it's,
I know.
it's the 3 bedrooms are $1,900 a month. It is not cheap.
So that's no HUD or subsidies are allowed in there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Just what a weird place. Like I could envision that in
Yeah, I
more
shouldn't have been
commercial
there.
than.
Right.
you
Well,
know.
that our land use on 60 limits that. They could only get those 3 parcels in the front commercial. The rest was what's called RM10, residential multifamily, 10 units to the acre. So that's, you would think it would be all commercial, but you had an old existing, was called 60 Oaks development on their west property line. So you can't step from commercial to straight residential. You have to step into it by putting commercial, multifamily, mixed use in the front to protect that existing land use.
And no
that was there.
buffer.
Well, they have some set aside buffers and some separations, heavy landscaping on the west side. And the people there, they helped fix some of the drainage problems for there. So the residents are pretty happy at the end of the
How
day.
many people are gonna live there? How many autos?
Oh, you know what? I think it's 180 units, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
it
thought
looks
was
bigger than what it
400.
is.
Yeah, I thought it was. Like
Yeah,
400
it's because the
plus.
units are big.
Yeah. Want to talk about it in business?
Yeah, we can go on that a little, whatever. You think.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. We have Larry Semprevivo in studio,
Good morning, Joe.
and we have Commissioner Tim Zork,
Good morning, Joseph.
and we also have Sean, our engineer. So Sean jumps in from time to time, so whenever he's ready, he'll just jump in and ask a question or whatever. But I wanted to kind of find out more about, campaigning, because, a lot of times you hear the political side and the issues of the candidate, but you really don't get behind the scenes. What have you done in your life? What have you accomplished? Why are you running your family? Kind of those things, because I think a lot of people are just super curious about that. So we were talking about your business experience, and you became a residential contractor. You built about 700 properties in Vero Beach, Indian River County. And I know you grew up in Indian River
Yes.
County. So what else? I do remember at one point you had another business consultation company?
Yes, I still do that as well, and I'll throw in one other interesting business experience that I had.
Sure.
Being in the building industry, we always had some rental properties, and for years we would get calls from what sounded to be student age or young adults saying, "Hey, I need an apartment furnished for 6 months in Vero Beach," and I would say literally for 3 years I'd say, "Sorry, we don't have anything." One day the light bulb went off, and I said, "What do you need it for?" And he says, "Well, I'm here for flight safety, and they don't have any apartments available. So we have to find housing on our own."
Oh,
So the light bulb went off. That afternoon, I made an appointment with the center manager for flight safety at the Vero Beach Airport. And I said, "Can you tell me about your housing here?" I said, "I thought you housed all your students here." And he says, "No, we only house about 30-40%. The rest have to kind of find their own." I said, "So would you be open to somebody building a designated facility for your overflow students?" And they said, "Sure, we'd love it." So I leased a piece of property at the Vero Beach Airport, right adjacent to flight safety. Built at the final build out, we had about 36 units and a double occupancy, so we could take about 70 plus students for there. I built up that business, built it in 3 phases, grew it to a point where flight safety said, "You know what? We'd like to buy that back from you, or we'd like to buy it from you." So that time, flight safety was bought by Berkshire Hathaway Company, so we worked out a sale arrangement with them. But just filling a need that you became aware of, and then how do you fulfill that as a business person? And it worked out very well for me. I was very happy. They were very happy at the end, and still have a lot of great friends out at Flight Safety. And they still do a lot of in the community rentals that they're here for 6 months or a year to go through their training process. So it was a great experience. And again, if I can tie something into aviation,
Yeah.
Also, being
That was really a business excuse to get closer to the airport.
it was. I had a window that I could see the full runway at the airport. It was great. So, for those of you who haven't visited my commission office, it's like a miniature airport. I have airplanes of all types, and I'm designated. I'm a professional passenger. I don't want to fly the plane.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in charge of the plane, but I enjoy travel.
Did you ever get a commercial license?
No, I didn't. I think I could probably walk away from a landing, but the plane might not be in very good shape.
Well, you must be pretty excited now that we do have some more flights flying out
Yes.
of our airport.
Yeah, very happy to have supported that. There's a little history on when I came into office. It's how can we look at working towards restoring air service? So first thing you have to do is identify what's the demand. So I worked with our MPO director, and we found there was some transportation data out there that we could purchase that would show what are called enplanements, people from zip codes in Indian River County that actually purchased airplane tickets. The government does all sorts of surveys, so we bought a piece of this data and found out from this sliver of data that we had about 80,000 outbound travelers from Indian River County, which is more than 50% of our population. Now, some people fly 5 times a year, some fly 0. So, but the average was, I think we were around 80,000 enplanements. So that information said, hey, maybe there's something here that somebody would be interested in. At that time, the airport was looking at doing a new master plan study. They added a full-blown enplanement study for the region, which would include eastern Okeechobee County, northern St. Lucie County. And that it was a much more in-depth study, but then it showed even a greater market opportunity. And then Elite saw that data and said, hey, let's look at something. So I think I'm the only commissioner that's been to Elite's offices in Melbourne a number of times, trying to foster the discussion, keep their interest up, tell them that there's support within the community, there's support within the commission to restore air service to Vero Beach. Because I was there the day the last Eastern Airline plane flew out of Vero Beach, and I watched it leave for the last time. So
This
it's
is
great to see that
huge.
come back.
You know, a lot of people don't realize, or actually a lot of people realize that when there's commercial flights out of your community, it is so instrumental in fostering new business
Yes.
growth for jobs. Because a lot of people, I hear the state representative debates and county commissioner debates about brain drain. You get people who have graduated college, they come back home here, or they want to come back home, and they can't because there's no high-paying jobs that they would like to have in this county. But now when you have a flight back and forth, executives are able to fly into the community. It's easy access. They could build their companies here, clean manufacturing facilities or whatever else. And now we can start hiring our own from Indian River County.
I don't think a lot of people know how much Mr. Zork has contributed to the community involved in these projects. He's really, to me, my opinion is, he's really concerned about this community.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's why, with his business experience, he really thinks like a businessman, but not a politician.
And his job that he's seeking is not something that pays tremendous amount of money either.
Oh, no, not at all. And we're going to get on the political side of things in a minute. But the last thing I want to kind of touch on, you on a family. How long have you and Laura been married, Laura Zork?
Forever? No. No. 13 years.
Fantastic.
And by the way, we met at an airport.
I was going to ask you that. So how did you two meet?
I was waiting to fly out of Orlando. She was waiting for somebody to fly into Orlando. A big storm came in, basically shut down the airport. All the flights were diverted. All the flights that were leaving were canceled. And I said, "Hey, do you want to go get a bite to eat while we're waiting to see what happens with the weather?" And that's how it happened.
Wow.
So it's appropriate. Well, we instantly had an interest in politics. That became very apparent.
It was meant to be. I'm married 54 years. And we met, and it was just meant to be. And
yeah.
As soon as I met her, I knew she was the girl.
Yeah. Same thing with Memory and I. We've been married 10 and a half, going on 11.
Mm-hmm.
And you just know it.
Right.
It just, so now you and Laura meet at the airport. And then how far after that did you get married?
Excellent question. I have to do a little math to figure out.
Lauren's listening right now. You're in the doghouse.
It was within less than about 14 months, I guess.
Oh, nice.
14 months. Because at the time she was working in Orlando on a contract doing services for a television station in their business management side. And that ended shortly after we met. So then to date, you had to commute.
And how many babies you have?
We have 4 kids. Our youngest is Chandler, which is 7. He's also known as Blue Angels number 9. He's been given that call sign by the Blue Angels team. And then Abby and Nicholas, and then Brianna, who's 24.
Yeah, that's right. I saw a picture. He was standing in front of a jet at the air show because I was working the air show.
Right.
Yeah, at the Republican booth, and I saw a picture.
He gets more press than I do, actually.
Yeah.
Between fishing videos and his airplane things, he's great.
This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. In the studio today, we have Commissioner Tim Zork and my papa, Larry Semprevivo. We're right back.
Oh, then I've got one cost savings where I saved the taxpayers $1.2 million on one change on one job.
This, of course, is an aviation-friendly song.
Yeah.
Up where we belong, see from the world below.
Was that on with Tom Cruise, the song?
Yeah, Top Gun. Actually, you know what's funny? I just got done filming the instructor, Yoda, out there, who's the Chilean Air Force's instructor for their 300 series performance team.
Nice.
Wow. And then we are now live on, live on YouTube, right? Live on YouTube?
We are live on YouTube.
Nice. We got to start periscoping. We got to start periscoping because that's on Twitter, and that is so huge.
Yeah, we should.
I was talking to Red because
And I crank down the air. It just takes a while. I'm not sure who came in here yesterday because I have it set when I leave at 72, and then I crank it to 68 when I come in. It was at 75 this morning.
Okay, and we have 4 minutes. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna grab another cup of coffee. Now it's gonna be cooler. It's gonna be cooler out there.
Yeah. I asked him to turn it down before.
You know, I could pick up the guitar and play, but I can't sing.
All the celebrities in the audience. We had Sabato Jr. and what's the other one? Yeah. Right. I'd like to cover that today too. The party goes up. Talk about it, maybe pay for it. So true. So we're gonna do between breaks. I like her. I talked to him on the phone.
Yeah, that.
I guess it's 8:25. By the time I get out there, it'll probably be close. Regal Paint Design Centers includes Vero Beach within its 11 locations throughout Florida. You can rely on Regal Paint featuring Benjamin Moore. They choose only the best experts and they assist you in any project. From floors to ceilings, you're 100% covered. Find it all: primers, lacquers, solvents, interior, exterior paint, brushes, rollers, covers, painting tools, abrasives, you name it. Regal Paint carries the best and comes with directions. The top experts. Just call Jorge at 772-257-7366. He'll guide you all the way. 257-7366. Regal Paint Design Center. Vero
He
Beach.
said something to me, I got it. He said, "If you went to the Democrat Party, they go up and down are good for you." And, you know, we need to embrace the people. And that was a good point. We're on YouTube, so, but, you know, that was kind of where it was at, where it was left. And I thought that was a good point. I said, the minute, I mean, it's obvious when you look at who's involved,
Mhm.
you have to question, you know, but we'll see how it plays out. Hey, Sean, is it a big deal? I mean, you know this stuff inside and out. Is it a big deal if the doors open or closed? There is a huge sound difference.
Yeah, it actually, the sound escapes, so it has that tinny.
We have to get him elected. He's the most
He'll
knowledgeable
get
man on
reelected.
that board.
Great morning, Vero Beach. Such a beautiful day here. And in the studio, we have Larry Semprevivo,
The Big Daddy.
the Big Daddy, and we have Commissioner Tim Zork,
The junior daddy.
the Junior Daddy.
Well,
we-
I got 54 years on.
But we have the same color hair.
Yeah,
That's true, that's true.
I leave my hair out of it. And we have Sean, our engineer and our good buddy. He's got a ponytail. He puts it back.
Hey, I'm considering about cutting a piece of that for my front.
Hey, Sean's really talented. Sean is a musician that's gone on tour across the country. He's met and played with famous artists, and they have a clothing business, and he works the soundboard in here, knows it inside and out. He has a studio. You have a studio at home too, right? A recording studio?
Most of the time, but working here is one. It's also.
Yeah.
Come home and I'm like, do this.
Because you also get soundtracks and send them to movies too, right?
I do a lot of work.
Films. Nice. Yeah, fantastic. So
It's amazing how many people in Vero Beach are so talented. It seems to draw a lot of talented people, executives and people are musically and it's amazing.
it really,
What
it's
a mix we have here.
Yeah, it's really true. You know, the other day I was at the barbecue, the Republican barbecue, and Chandler was there, and he was dressed up in a little cap and gown, and my kids as well.
Right.
And they went up with Laura Zork, who's running for school board, and she was like, "This is why I'm running," and she points to the children, and because you have four kids and you've experienced the educational system, you know, for Laura, and it was just really adorable to see the children, and one day that they're going to grow up in this community, and then you say, are we going to have jobs for them in this community? Are we, you know, how conscientious are we about saving taxpayers' money so we can reinvest that in other categories
Right.
to better our community? And I do recall at one point with with you, there was a project you were working on that you actually saved taxpayer money.
Right, just one instance. There's a number of them, but one that's real easy to follow. Here on the beach, we do what are called beach renourishment project, where we put sand on the beach. Before being elected, we had started looking at what's called inland sand, where if you mine down far enough, you actually get same beach sand quality below the surface, where the guys will mine it, put it on trucks, and then bring it over to the beach and place it on the beach. Well, in the past, we had taken those projects, and we have to work around turtle season. You can't place sand on the
Right,
beach
because of
during
nesting, yeah.
So right after I got elected, they just finished up a significant project and going through the bid specifications and how the project was managed. And I said, there's one thing that determines the cost of a product is how fast you want the product from the supplier. So if somebody said to you, instead of making 12 million cookies a day, I need you to make 30 million cookies a day, but you only have the same facility to make it in, so you've got to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you're looking at overtime, your equipment is stressed out, you get a lot more equipment maintenance. So on the sand project, we were giving them a short window to produce the product. In this case, it was refined sand. So I said, if we gave them more time, use the same bid qualifying process to select the provider, but give them a longer window of time to produce the product, give it called heads up notice, it'll drive the cost of the product down, because now he can build it Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 during
Right.
normal business operations. Right. And on a project that we applied that to, we went on a $5 million proposed contract cost. We saved $1.2 million by just changing the bid specifications to let them build the product during normal business operations.
Now your budget, that's huge. Your budget, could you imagine if that happened across the country?
Sure. And it was very simple. You just had to, we didn't do anything. We selected them as the normal process for selecting, but just giving them an appropriate amount of time to make the product ahead of time before turtle nesting season really just drove the cost down. You took that overtime cost and that 24-hour-a-day cost, which is how they had produced it in the past.
Nice. You've done other similar things with projects. Was it time related, or was
there's one thing when I came in trying to make us more business friendly. If somebody was building a business, a new facility, or expanding an existing facility, the development impact fees that we had were quite expensive. So we commissioned a study and we looked at how we could reduce the cost of that. And I'm proud to say that we were able to reduce those costs by 50% or greater in some cases. And just to put that into a recent perspective, up at the hospital campus, they're building a new medical office building on the south side of the emergency room area. That building, the fees related to that building are over $500,000 less than they were if you built that before I was elected.
Okay, so for our listeners, if you want to build a building in Indian River County, if you want to build a commercial building, because this does not apply to a residential single-family home.
Right, those rates stayed essentially the same. We were trying to reduce the cost of anything that created jobs.
Yeah. So if you want to build a restaurant that has a drive-through, the price of having a drive-through for an environmental impact study is much greater than a restaurant without a drive-through.
Right.
So if you're Chick-fil-A, you're crunching the numbers and saying, we're going to spend an extra $100,000, $200,000 in environmental impact fees or studies to be able to build this standalone building. And then they withdraw and say, we're not going to build because it's so expensive. So you and the commissioners were able to cut those fees back. For a drive-through restaurant, to give the folks kind of an understanding of what that costs. What is an approximate?
Before the fees changed, I'd say you could pay close to $30,000 per 1,000 square feet of your building.
So $90,000 for a 3,000 square foot restaurant.
Right.
Well, there was one case, a friend of mine owned Burger King. He built it in New Jersey. And when he got done, they wouldn't let him make an exit off onto the highway. So here he has a whole building now, and there's the drive-through, but there's no way to get in and out.
Ingress and egress.
And so, but in the beginning, they said it was okay. So when he got the building done, they said, okay, now to get it, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars.
Right.
And it just about put him out of business.
Yeah, that's New Jersey, an anti-business state. So let me ask you this. Now, so it's about, let's say 3,000 square foot, about 90,000 environmental impact. After you touched those environmental impact fees, what did they become?
At least half.
Half that, so 45
right.
compared to 9. What really happens? I mean, is it studying traffic patterns? Is it, what goes into that huge cost? Why does it have to even be 45
Well,
grand?
and in Florida, we have what at one time was called the Growth Management Act. And tied with that, growth had to pay for itself. So if you look at each trip you add on the road, that takes a certain amount of lane capacity. Same thing with your water and sewer. You're going to have a 1-inch water meter. It's going to use X amount of gallons. That's X percentage of a water facility. So you take all the different elements and you break them down into a cost sharing of what is your impact going to be and what is your impact going to cost. And it
Okay.
covers everything: public facilities, roads, parks, fire protection, you name it. It's the full gambit. So that way, between the property taxes that facility will pay, plus its impact fees, it's paid its fair share of its cost. And so that's how development is looked at in Florida.
You know, listening to you, it tells me that a guy off the street shouldn't be a commissioner. He should have, you have such a rounded background and you have so much knowledge. I mean, to me, you would be an absolute asset to be on that board.
Well, thank you.
To be a commissioner.
And having the ability, being in the building industry, I had to work with virtually every department of county government: public works, utilities, the health department, the building department. And having that day-to-day interaction with those departments for decades, you know, it's interesting. I have not seen any of my opponents in the race ever come to the podium to talk about an issue of concern, ever. Have they contacted my office about an issue of concern, whether it's the lagoon, the train, you name it? I don't see them at meetings. I haven't heard them at meetings. And
At
I've never
commission
heard-
meetings?
Yes.
Commission meetings.
So I've been going to the podium since 1985 with ideas, innovations, how we can make something better, a rule change, what's the pros and cons of a rule change. And when it came time when my predecessor decided to retire, I built a good rapport with him. He says, I don't always agree with everything that you say, but you're always factual and you have your research and you have your backup. And for that, this was Commissioner Gary Wheeler. He said, for that, I'm going to endorse you in this race.
Oh, I love Gary Wheeler. He was, you know, he's a really nice guy, great guy.
Yes.
Okay, so normally when you run for office, I mean, there's a motivation or an inspiration behind it, right?
Right.
So you're a candidate. What's it like being a candidate? I mean, because you're a sitting commissioner, you own a business because you own that consulting
Right.
company, and you're married with four babies. I don't care how old they are; they're always going to be your babies, right? So, what's it like being a candidate? I mean, how many hours a day are invested going out there meeting the voters, commission meetings you have to deal with? Tell us what it's like.
Well, it's a pretty full schedule. Just ask my kids. They go, Dad, you know, we have time to go fishing today, or do we have time to go for a bike ride, or do we have time to do something? And I say, okay, we pull up the calendar on the phone. We look at all the obligations that you have, whether it's a commission meeting, an MPO meeting, a SHIP meeting for housing assistance.
What's an NPO?
Metropolitan planning. That's where we look at the future of roadways and transportation in the county.
Right.
And they can see that it's pretty full. But so some days I take Chandler and we go fishing before work. We'll go fishing at 7:00 in the morning. Or now that it's summertime, you can go later in the day. So you just try to work around your schedule so you still have the family time. And I love being out in front of people. I like hearing their concerns. I like hearing from them. So being out during campaign season is kind of like, this is great because you get to see and speak to so many more people that you don't see on your sort of your off campaign time period. So you get in front of a lot of other groups. You hear a lot of good questions from people. So, you know, being involved and being in the consulting side, what I do is I do what's called entitlement research. I have a couple folks that buy property around Florida. And when they purchase it, they want to know, if they bought a bundle of property from a lender, what did I get? Any surprises, any negatives, any good surprises in this? So I'll review their portfolio of what they have, and I'll give them some guidance on, hey, I think we could change this, or you could potentially get something back that was paid for from a prior applicant. And had some pretty happy people. What's nice is I can do that. I call them between the midnight and 2 a.m. Because it's research and report writing. So it's
and it's quiet.
Right.
Yeah, all the babies are in bed.
Right. You know, this morning I think my first email went out at I don't know, 6:30 to staff on an issue that that came in overnight. So you just kind of learn how to time manage. Still try to spend time with have a date night here and there. Sometimes date night is a campaign dinner of chicken somewhere.
Or it's a debate or a forum.
Right.
So I just have to ask this: what's your motivation? I mean, why are
Right.
you running?
This is there was a number of issues, and Laura my wife looked at me and she said, instead of going to the podium, you would probably be able to get more of your issues accomplished or addressed if you're one of the 5. And I'm like, yeah, but Gary's been there for 20 years and he had already filed to run. So I went and I got my package to run for office, but Gary, he'd already filed. And I'm thinking, well, how am I going to accomplish this? I worked on his first campaign when he ran for county commission when he was elected.
Yeah,
Eons
great
ago.
guy.
Right. So kind of out of the blue, he announced he was withdrawing from the race. I already had my packet filled out. So between his announcement of withdrawing to me becoming a candidate was about 2.5 hours because I was already contemplating it.
Yeah.
And with the idea of how do you make government better? How do you make government more accountable? I like enterprise funds where it's like a standalone business operation inside of government. That way the money is not commingled with other operations. And I use the building department as an example because it's an enterprise fund. The building department is not subsidized by the taxpayer 1 penny. It's completely run 100% by user fees, the fees it collects.
Permitting fees and all that.
And it actually runs at a small profit, but over time that profit had accumulated. So when the new county administration was built, it made sense, instead of paying rent to the county for the building department space, we paid $3 million to buy our space in the new county administration building. So we didn't have to pay rent anymore, because as an enterprise fund, you have to pay rent back to the entity. So because that would be a capital investment that would reduce our long-term cost because our rent was quite expensive. So now we still pay a fractional share of the operating, HR, those types of things. But it was a better business decision to take money and buy down your long-term costs. And also happy to announce that we're instilling a 5% reduction in all building permit fees. 5% is not a huge amount, but I tell you what, if it was going up 5%, that's another story. Going down at any percent is always better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is Joe Semprevivo for Rhett Palmer on the Rhett Palmer Show. In studio, we have Larry Semprevivo and Commissioner Tim Zork. We'll see you right after this break.
You going to touch on the lagoon?
Yeah, we'll touch on the lagoon. We'll then go into the DNC, so it's more news.
Yeah, because it's been long.
Yeah, it's too long of a top. That's
Right.
How's
Is Red blowing your phone up?
Hey, I keep getting text.
He doesn't understand. I cannot do anything with those vocal processors during the show. It takes 3 people to set those. They've never been touched since I've stepped in here. He's just critiquing everything.
That's what he said. Sounds great. It just sounds like shit.
That it's the vocal processors, has nothing to do with the 4-band EQ or anything else. And him saying that I sound good, well, that's because I'm eating the mic, trying to get around how that tinny sound is with the vocal processor. I'm not giving it a chance.
Can we do anything to improve it on our end? Not move as
You can
much?
cheat the mic.
Be really close.
That's it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for right now, we shouldn't have vocal processors. We should just have one overall compressor limited gate. Bang, it picks, but we've got enhancers going and everything else.
Okay, so we'll just eat the mic.
Yeah, I'll call Shane. I'll have him come in, but I can't. This is what Rhett does to me. We're doing a show. I can get it fixed, but I can't do it during.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll get it straight.
Yeah, we'll do it right afterwards.
Yeah.
After we're off.
Free pickup and delivery. 770-9900. Remember that number, 770-9900. Touch It Classroom.
So when we come back, we're gonna talk about the lagoon, and then we'll move into the DNC and compared to the RNC, like what our interpretations. When Bernie Sanders first came out, he got booed when he tried to unite the party, and then we'll talk about the media, how biased they are, because all they've been saying on this DNC side is, there's no unity. They said the same thing with the RNC, just to get people to tune into the convention, and it's kind of a joke. And everything went smooth on both of them.
Did you see this guy where he developed elevators with no cables, run by magnets? Now that is for now. You could take that technology that he's developed,
Cars.
anything,
Yeah.
A maglev.
unbelievable, mag
That's
lifts.
a neat idea. When you think about it, it's like, gee, I wonder why I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Well, he thought of it. You thought of that 35 years
I
ago.
know.
Yeah.
This is Joe Semprevivo filling in for Rhett Palmer on the Rhett Palmer Show. And in studio today, we have Larry Semprevivo.
Good morning, Joe.
We have Commissioner Tim Zork.
Good morning, Joe.
I think I'm going to call him the super commissioner.
Yes. Yeah, I gotta say, every time now I hear Morning Joe, I get sick to my stomach because I think of the liberal, the socialist on Morning Show. But anyway, I wanted to just touch on one more thing before we move on to national politics. Since I've been running for Republican State Committee man, I ask people, hey, what's on your mind? What are you concerned about most in Indian River County? And it seems on the top of that list is the lagoon.
Yes.
Everybody's really worried about the lagoon because if the lagoon is contaminated, housing prices fail, tax revenue to the county goes down, which affects everything else.
Tourism
is wiped out. So local businesses, restaurants, and everybody else suffers.
It would be a terrible impact on us
Right.
community.
And I was talking to you at one point. You gave me some advice on the lagoon, and and I repeat this quite often. And everything's overly complicated when you talk to the government. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this. We got to do a multi-pronged approach, 30 different things. You came out with it pretty simple. Tell us what your solution is for the lagoon.
Well, there's a couple things that make it simple. Is we're fortunate we don't have the Lake Okeechobee discharges that Martin and St. Lucie get a lot of that bad water. But you have to look at where does that water come from? That's not rainfall water going into Lake Okeechobee. That's coming from the mid-Florida basin, the Osceola County, Orange County, Seminole County. All that water flows through the Kissimmee River, and 55% of all the inflow water into Lake Okeechobee comes from that mid-Florida region. So you have to look at where's the water coming from and what water quality is that water. That has got to be the dirtiest water you've ever seen. It looks like black soup. If you go to Tampa, you cross the Kissimmee River just by River Ranch. If you stop and look over that bridge you cross over, that's the Kissimmee River crossing, and that is the straight shot to Lake Okeechobee. If you look down and it's not as black as the asphalt on the road you're driving on, that's a good day. It is terribly polluted water that comes out of mid-Florida. They have no water quality standards. They can dump the nastiest polluted water into Lake Okeechobee. No checks, no balances, no requirements, no EPA review, no DEP review, nothing. So what happens is that nasty water builds up and fills up in Lake Okeechobee to an elevation, and then the Army Corps says, hey, we got to dump this water, with no concern of how now this terribly polluted water is now going to be discharged to the east and the west part of Florida. So we've been trying to drive the discussion that you need to look at. One, mid-Florida is running out of water. They have tremendous population growth. They need to keep their water and conserve it and reuse it instead of just dumping it into the Kissimmee River Basin and then into Lake Okeechobee and then into our lagoon, and eventually just because it goes to tide, it just disappears out into the ocean. So we're trying to drive that conversation to look at that. Secondly, what we can do here locally, I have an event coming up on August the 11th, a community outreach event
Your
called
mic went off.
the Bethel Creek.
His mic's off.
No, it isn't.
Is it?
No,
How's that?
it's perfect.
Better? On August the 11th at the Bethel Creek House on Highway A1A, it'll be a community discussion regarding a pilot project called Connecting the Atlantic Ocean to Bethel Creek again, but via a pipe connection. That used to be a natural overflow area where the ocean and the lagoon would open up and close as needed as nature did it. So we're looking at bridging that on a pilot project for about 3 months. And then if that proves successful, then use the Destin Harbor model where they actually install a permanently installed underground pipe structure to improve their water quality in Destin Harbor, which is very similar to the Bethel Creek area of the lagoon. And I think that would solve a number of our problems. I've also got another number of other initiatives, but I know we're going to be going to break here shortly.
But really, in summary, what you're saying, the simplest thing to do is for them to purify their water, clean their water, and put it into Kissimmee, that solves
A
a
big chunk of the
huge
problem.
portion of the
Well, let me
problem.
ask the question. Doesn't the governor of the state have the authority or form a commission to force these people to clean their water?
You would think as governor, you'd have a lot of power, but in this case, when it's the Army Corps of Engineers, the governor has zero.
Because it's federal.
Right.
All right, well, just real quickly, can we give a call for action to the voters? Is there something that they can do?
Well, recently we had the fill out the algae complaint letters. We had a lot of response on those. Going to the community outreach event on August the 11th, that's will be held at the Bethel Creek House as an open free event. And there's other ways people can get involved. Maybe we can touch on that.
When we return, we'll do a call for action, then we'll do national politics. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. In studio today, we have Larry Semprevivo and Commissioner Tim Zork. Thank you very much.
I'm just a little confused. The waterways, all the water is controlled by the federal government?
Yes, yes and no. Once it hits the federal government looks at flood insurance and exposure to flood. So they have, their mission is, how do we not have flood insurance claims? So everything's flood based, not water quality based. So that's why mid-Florida, they just, to keep them, any areas in mid-Florida from flooding, they just dump the water. It goes into these network of systems. It all leads into the Kissimmee River, which then the Kissimmee River flows south into Lake Okeechobee. So their mission is flood control or water conveyance, not water quality. So
Well, shouldn't our government, our governor
Mhm.
impose certain restrictions on dumping the water into that river?
You could, as long as you didn't impede the flood
Yeah,
management.
Right.
So they always go, well, this is flood management, hands off, you can't touch it.
Well, I think that's two different subjects. One
You-
is the controlling the water
Right.
height.
Yeah.
Another is controlling the water quality.
Yeah.
I think the government, if he want to go out on a limb, he can impose or form a commission and enforce the dumping of bad water.
Well,
to be
because
more
the state
quality.
EPA could do that,
That's
right?
Well, they
absolutely
could.
right.
So actually 2 years ago, Senator Negron had a Senate Select Committee on the Lake Okeechobee discharges, and I was the only commissioner to be put on that. I don't know of in the state, but I didn't see any other commissioners around there. And being put on that, then I got access to tours with the South Florida Water Management District, which is funny. Orlando is in the South Florida Water Management District, managed out of, Miami that way, because the middle of the state water flows south. The water for the St. John's flows
Is
north.
that you? Your phone?
It's a strange river.
What's mom? Hello.
Sorry, I'm listening to you. I'm
Yeah.
just-
So,
Oh,
if we
great. Oh,
can,
thanks a lot, sweetheart.
if we
Love
can
you.
enforce at that,
All right.
before the water hits the
Bye-bye.
lake, you gotta clean it. But the Army Corps just pulls their chip card out and goes, sorry, you can't touch that, it's flood management.
She changed your appointment to 11 forward to 5, excuse me. My question is,
Mhm.
if Disney can purify their water,
Right.
why can't we?
Right, and Disney does a super job at it. So
Right.
they actually don't contribute one drop to the problem because of one guy's vision. His name's Dick Nunes.
Yeah,
And I've heard him speak. He has a vision and passion he built Disney World for the Disney family and built part of Anaheim. So he was an environmentalist pro water conservation in the 60s when they were building Disney. So that's why Disney manages its water real well, but everybody around it, it's like the dumping grounds. If we got water we need to get rid of, let's just put it over here and then that connects to here and away it goes.
Well, they have just lowered the standards for water. They can put more toxic materials into the water,
Mhm.
and that's the government just lowered it. Even though they know so many parts per million are bad.
Mhm.
And now they're saying, you can dump this bad stuff in the water, even though we know it's going to make some people sick. They just done that. And I don't understand how could they lower the standards of your drinking water?
Mhm.
This is insanity.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you look at and you go, I don't get it.
I don't get it. It's like, let's destroy America. Let's kill the people with toxic materials.
Mhm.
And yet they're so stringent on a little manufacturer.
Right, yeah,
They'll
they'll,
come up, a little
your
manufacturer.
parking lot drainage that you keep all
Yeah.
100% on site, they're gonna make you go through 100 hoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, but then they can give you poison so your
They say,
children
it's
can
like,
drink.
Lake Okeechobee is the septic tank for mid-Florida. Because all that groundwater that all moves and ends up in the Kissimmee River, they just clear shoot it straight into the lake.
And I don't think it does any good for the ocean to get all this crap thrown into it
Right.
either. It's just a matter of time. You're going to destroy the ocean. And if you dilute the salt content in the ocean,
Mhm.
it will not kill any more bacteria, will not kill anything.
Mhm.
Salt is the savior of this
Right,
our waterways, believe it or not. And I'm not a professor. I'm just plain common sense.
right.
I think
I
our
got a good letter to the editor in the paper today. I had
Yeah, Phyllis Fry did it.
my mom sent me a picture of it, but I haven't.
So you have another meeting today after the show?
I have Steve Olds is coming in and he does a show here and I'm his guest on that show. So I'm just going to reverse
Oh,
position. And then I have a meeting after that with a volunteer.
You know, it takes so much of your time to run for office. It's ridiculous.
It,
Huge
Yeah.
investment.
like we had we did the Press Journal interviews on Monday. And Rodolico, he's an interesting guy, don't try to take him. I said, I'm happy to show you that I've made a lot more money in private business than I have. I said, I made 10 times more what you make as a commissioner's salary on a W-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not as 1099 gains
Right.
but as straight up salary.
Yeah.
And he just likes to think that he's the only guy that's ever written a paycheck. Well, I've written millions of dollars in paychecks.
You don't, on your campaign standpoint, you don't highlight that enough.
Right.
You don't talk about your business experience. Out of all the forums I've been to, I heard you mention it once.
Mhm.
And that's critical because
you're a
is,
businessman.
you're the
not a
man.
politician.
You
You're not a
have the
politician, not even
experience.
close. And I love Mark Rodolico. He's contributing to our economy. He's a good guy. I have nothing bad to say about him or anybody for that matter that's running for commissioner. The reality of it is you have to highlight your business experience. That's really,
he has great qualifications.
absolutely.
I know what I'd like to build
Mhm.
here in Vero for me,
Right.
for us, in New Mexico. And
1 minute out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
how long?
1 minute.
Okay. I'd like to build, say, a wall, a house built like this, perfect square, and then all the back of the property area, so you're enclosed. You open the two main gates. There's your swimming pool. There's everything inside.
Kind of like a compound sort of.
Built a compound like they do in Mexico and
Mhm.
Spain and all, where you have everything in, and the buildings are all like this. Living quarters is like an L, a U.
This is Joe Semprevivo for the Rhett Palmer Show. I have Larry Semprevivo in the studio today,
Good morning, son.
and I have Commissioner Tim Zork.
Good morning, Joseph.
And so we were just gonna, from a call for action standpoint on the lagoon, and then we're moving over to national politics. What can the voters do right now in Indian River County? Because I get this asked all the time. What can I do? Who do I call? And other than a sitting commissioner, what can I do to get this lagoon fixed?
Right. As I mentioned, that Press Journal had a good outreach. They wanted to get as many signed letters, petitions sent up to the governor's office. That part is that current call to action has kind of run its course. There's not, people could still send them in, but they've bundled up thousands and thousands and delivered to Governor Scott's office. I'd say right now there's not anything on the schedule, but if we hear that Colonel Dodd or somebody from the Army Corps is going to be in the region looking at the discharges for Lake Okeechobee, or Senator Nelson or Senator Rubio are going to be in the region, the more people that we have at those events kind of sharing our frustration with the system so they can take it back to the hierarchy of the Army Corps office. And I know it was about 2 months ago, we had a meeting with Senator Nelson and one of the representative Army Corps. They did a helicopter tour over the lake and the discharge area into the lagoon. And we had a body of elected officials that said, look, this is what you're doing to our community. You really need to see it's not just a lake level in the lake. You're destroying our estuary, you're destroying our offshore reefs and those things with the pollution. And shortly after that visit, there was a significant reduction in the outfall. But it's still a significant reduction. It's still billions of gallons a day. I mean, it's hard to fathom how much water gets dumped out of Lake Okeechobee. And the only way you can put it in real perspective is stand at the discharge area on the lake at Port Mayaca, and the ground is literally shaking at your feet because the water has so much tremendous force. It's coming out at such a rate. It feels like a seismic event. You're standing there on the bank, and it sounds like Niagara Falls. That's how much water that is being left out of the lake sent into our lagoon. And you just look at it and you just go, it's awful.
And it's all black.
It's nasty.
And it smells.
This is even before the algae bloom problem that was in the lake. If they would have closed the locks off and said, hey, we're not discharging any more water till we can get this algae bloom under control, we wouldn't have the problem that Martin County is having today.
Let me ask you this. How long, let's just say you wave the Tim Zork magic wand and you get mid-Florida, Central Florida, to clean their water and put it in Lake Okeechobee. How long do we start seeing our lagoon clean up, algae blooms disappear, etc.?
Well, I think somebody could do an action plan on the mid-Florida and said 3 to 5 years, we want to see a 50% improvement in your water quality discharge. I think those are achievable. And one thing, when I met with the mid-Florida folks about 2 weeks ago, I said, we're having to spend our local tax dollars here, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River, to clean up your mess of your water that you're dumping into the lake that's coming into the lagoon. You guys need, one, you need the water. 2, you need to help pay for it out of your tax dollars, not out of our tax dollars. And actually, I'd have to tell you, I wish I had a camera, because the moderator in the room looked like a deer in the headlights. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, your water is the contributing factor that's being discharged in our lagoon. And it's like you'd never heard it before.
But if the water's perfect going into Okeechobee, like if it's tomorrow, it's all perfect.
Right. How
long before our lagoon is completely clean?
Well, on the south end, you have a number of factors. That's one contributing factor. Even, okay, let's say tomorrow Lake Okeechobee discharges are gone forever.
Right.
We still have our surface water and our groundwater movement from septic tanks that we need to deal with locally. And here locally, we're moving forward a number of septic to sewer conversion projects. We're doing stormwater projects to take more of our water runoff from other improvement areas, roads and streets and things like that, and cleaning that before it goes to the lagoon. And I have one project we're moving forward called a water scrubber. It's basically a high capacity water filtration system that I'd like to put on the main relief canal, where we discharge on average about 30 million gallons a day. We have some processes that have reduced the what's called TMDL, total maximum daily load, in that water body that goes to the lagoon, but we could really improve it even more.
Is our water at this point poisonous? I mean, like if it splashes on you, do you die? Because I know there was somebody that had an open cut and the water touched in Fort Pierce and they passed away.
Right. And I don't know the particular strain of that bacteria that they got into, but it was actually a freshwater. They say that lives in a freshwater pocket near the bank edge in a unique environment between the temperature salinity level that can foster that bacteria growth. And that's been a rare occurrence going on for many decades, that it's just a very rare.
Well, they
occurrence.
also now, the fumes, breathing them in,
Oh, that's a new problem, yes.
this is a new problem now.
Oh my gosh. It's
So
like,
I'm saying this is extremely dangerous, and I think our governor and our government is too lax with this problem.
I've wondered why and I've submitted this suggestion in, and I'm probably gonna submit it again. When we have an oil spill, you have the oil on top of the water floating around. So they have oil skimmer boats. Why can't we deploy the oil skimmer boats and go out there and skim the algae off the top? It's the same, you're skimming a product
we
on top
can.
of the water.
we can.
Why can't we deploy those resources that are in place
Well,
because of,
I think there is like a $2 million reward for
Yes.
someone to come up with it, and I think that's an excellent idea.
Well, it
because
already
those-
exists. I mean, you
the
don't
boats
even need to
are there.
invent anything.
Yeah, but if we can implement that.
Right.
You know, and that's true, because it's ugly.
Well, I always look at causation. I mean, picking up the algae solves zero.
Right.
Because
Oh,
you're,
well,
Yes.
it's something that you can do immediately
Yeah,
to do
but-
versus
something.
stopping it, you're looking at where is it coming from?
Right,
how
we
is
have
that-
to
yeah.
stop the source.
because number one, if you're on a boat and you have a leak in your boat, you got to plug the hole first.
Right.
So to me, cleaning the algae is saying, let's drive the boat faster, even though
Right.
we have a leak. It
Yeah.
doesn't do anything at all.
Doesn't fix the big picture.
It doesn't. We have to start clean the input and then skim after.
I understand that, but not doing nothing.
No, I know.
And this is
Yeah.
where you're stagnant with the whole project.
Right.
It's just sitting there. I'm saying, let's implement cleaning that water immediately until you get the government to get off its back
Right.
of laying down doing nothing and get it cleaned up.
Mhm.
So if we can take raw sewage and make drinking water out of it,
Right,
we're sure enough to be able to do this.
right.
So, moving into national politics, have you watched the DNC at all? Did you watch the RNC?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and have you seen the DNC?
Unfortunately, Laura and I have watched portions of it as much as we could tolerate.
Yeah. Is there a contrast? I mean, have you seen a difference between the two?
Oh, it's the DNC convention seems to be more like a Hollywood promotion for the Grammy Awards.
Seriously.
It seems to be all hype, no substance. Do as I say, not as I do. It's and when I look at
And lots of booing.
yes, that's right. And you notice up until last night, they didn't have any flags on the stage.
No American flags. Yeah.
But as soon as they figured that somebody complained, they put a whole bunch up.
Yeah, but these people are socialists.
But they had a lot of the people that oppose America, they had their flags.
I find it, what I've been telling everybody from now on, do not refer to any Democrat as a progressive or a liberal. You refer to them as a socialist, because that's, one thing that they do really great is marketing.
Mhm.
They go out there and they just say radical conservatives, or, they just constantly nail a negative term they assign to us. We need to start doing the same thing, because it's fact. When you look at Bernie Sanders, he's a socialist. He'll self-admit it. And if you look at the policies of Hillary Clinton, she doesn't refer to herself as a socialist, but they're now mirroring.
They're socialist policies.
Bingo. So she's a socialist. If you start doing that, then because a liberal is a really great term. They stole the term from Thomas Jefferson, who was a classical liberal. That's, and that's empowering the people. That's a fantastic
Yeah,
term.
but they also have a great tool. They have the media
Yes.
on their side.
They do.
Because a lot of the people that are working in the media are really
Yep.
lean towards socialism.
Yep.
And so they have that asset that they are using against the Republican Party, and they're brainwashing the American people.
That's true. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show with Larry Semprevivo and Tim Zork in the studio. See you right in a minute.
It's absolutely true. When you have the media, you have a very, very advantage.
Big advantage.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, for them.
Right. For
And
them.
everything a Republican says, they twist.
But Trump's been able to kind of turn that freeness around, because look,
Yes.
he got a ton of,
Well, he just backed down on one of the subjects the other day when he said he'd let these other governments pay their fair share, and now he just backed down on that.
NATO.
Yeah, and I don't see why he backed down on that. And it's true. If we're defending them and if we're paying most of the cost, they should pay their fair share.
Mhm.
And why had everybody gotten an uproar that he asked them to pay their share?
Right.
And then he backed down, which he shouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm not, I haven't followed it close enough to know what he's changed or not.
Yeah, well, he did. The newspaper said he did. He backed down.
But then again, you gotta remember, that's a Hillary supporting newspaper.
Yeah, that's true.
That is
They
true.
all are. That is very true.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean.
No, I like the hacienda kind of thing because you're completely private.
Mhm.
You have your garden in there. I had a house like that in New Mexico.
Mhm.
And when we closed the gates, we were in our own world.
Right.
And the walls were several feet high.
Mhm.
And it was beautiful. Inside, it was a little paradise with walnut trees.
Mhm.
I had everything in there.
Right.
Garden, I could pick fresh fruit. I had my swimming pool. You know, we played tennis or whatever.
Mhm.
Everything was confined inside.
Right.
And the living quarters were like a motel.
Right.
All the living for one family, another family.
Mhm.
So we'd all live in the same area and share the pool. And the cost would be actually less
Mhm.
and you have more security.
Kind of like your little
That's what I
resort.
don't, that's
You
what I'm
know,
not
today's
understanding.
society, you
I
gotta
know.
think about it because you have these radical people running around, killing
Right.
people, slitting the throat of an 85-year-old priest.
I know.
I mean,
That survived World War II and then to die that way?
this is insanity. But we seem,
Yesterday was great.
we want to be politically correct and welcome these people into our country, not knowing that half of these damn people are murderers.
Yeah.
And they want to kill you because their religion tells them to. And it justifies.
It sounds great out there.
And American people are so.
Okay, perfect.
passive.
I know, they've got
There's no
numb to
fight
it.
in them.
No.
And we, of course, we have a weak government.
Someone's calling me. I don't know who half these people are.
About a minute and a half out.
Okay, thank you.
So you do any building on the side?
Actually, just got everything lined up with the state and turned all my licenses back on. We started in December. The state lost what you do is when you go from active building to say, I'm not going to build for a while when I first got elected. So you place your license inactive. The state lost a piece of paper. They said, if we see your application to go inactive, but for some reason we didn't do something right. So
Oh,
it took 2.5 months to get them to put it back the way it was supposed to be. So now that it's inactive, now I can change it back to active. But since they lost a piece of this something that they never could actually tell me, I said, what did you lose? They're like, we don't know, it just says application's incomplete, but I have everything right here. I'm like, so that it's not incomplete. And they go, yeah, you're right. And then about 2 weeks ago, I got the notice that they,
because you know all the subs.
actually, no, a lot of that world has changed to some, because a lot of guys, some of the guys we use the same people.
Is he ready?
Mhm.
Wow.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo with Larry Semprevivo in studio
Good morning, and thank God I live in Vero.
and Commissioner Tim Zork.
Good morning, Joseph.
And we also have Sean running the show. Sometimes he has to keep me in line. So we're talking the National Party. You know, did you find it interesting? Before the RNC, there was going to be riots. Black Lives Matter was going to be there, killing whites. Black Panthers were going to be there, killing whites. We had open carry. And by the way, I did talk to 5 new Black Panther members, Muslim, and screaming at a blonde girl inside of the queue where the RNC was holding its convention. And they were not rioting because of the open carry men. Individuals from Ohio showed up with their rifles, with their AR-15s, with their bolt-action rifles, their handguns, holding them. Of course, they were unloaded. So I asked them, so where's your 1 million people that you were bringing to this convention? Your permit said 1,000 to 5,000, 1,000 to 5,000. Where are they? Oh, there was there was an awful amount of open carry people going to show up, and we didn't want any conflict. So, wow, they can show up to Philadelphia at the 2012 election carrying pipes and weapons to a polling place, committing a felony, because those polling places are gun-free zones, committing a felony, and that was okay, but they knew they would be confronted with law-abiding Second Amendment citizens
Right.
with open carry weapons, and they didn't want to show up. So it showed that it worked. And I have to say, even though I disagreed with John Kasich not showing up to speak at the convention, I have to give him credit. When he was pressured to eliminate the open carry law for 4 days during the convention, he refused to do it. And that's at least.
And I think that was a deterrent for no riots and white people getting beat up.
Bingo. And it wasn't a soft target. You had 5,500 law enforcement officers carrying firearms there, and I think that was really, that was good news for us at least.
So guns are a deterrent against crime,
Yeah,
as far as I'm
Clearly.
concerned.
bingo. Now, on the DNC side of things, the media once again came out. Oh, there's going to be tension. Oh, there's going to be this. Oh, there's going to be that. They did the same thing on the RNC, same thing on the DNC. This is only to get people to watch. That's it.
The hype.
Yeah. So now you're sitting there with Laura, sick to your stomach, watching the DNC. What are they accomplishing for this convention? Because I listened to Bill Clinton's speech, former president's speech last night. What are they accomplishing?
They're trying to make everybody just feel good, sound good. What we did is we kind of made a list of what consumer products we're going to boycott, what places we're not going to go, what movies we're not going to see, because that's the only little protest that we can make is if there's somebody that's supporting a candidate you don't like and they're in a movie, well, don't go see it. We do that. There's a number of movies I won't go see, even though it's got great reviews and it's an interesting story. If that person's in it, I'm not going.
Right.
Same thing there was a particular singer, and I think so related to a clothing designing company that Laura pointed out that I wasn't aware of. And so, well, Abby, you can never, ever, ever shop in a store that sells that person's stuff.
Right.
And that's all we can do is we can protest with our pocketbook.
Well, that's an interesting point, and that's
I like that a lot.
I'm on the board of that group. It's called Second Vote. And your first vote is at the polls. Your second vote is with your pocketbook.
Right.
And you will find now check this out, every business, you will find every charity and where their money goes. All you have to do, if you have a cell phone, get the app, Second Vote, it's free. Download the app. You could type in Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger King if you're driving around and want to shop and you want to see where their rankings are, or if you want to contribute to a charity. Where does their money go? And where's their rank? It's ranked 1 to 5. And you can look up each individual issue.
Nice.
If you're a Second Amendment person, you can look up where they stand, if they've been contributing to anti-gun movements, and things like that. And if you're pro-life, you can look up that issue. You can look up each individual issue, or you can look at their total score. We exclusively shop on that. My shopping patterns have completely changed because of Second Vote. And it was created by David Black. His wife is a U.S. Congresswoman out of Tennessee. And it's a fantastic organization.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's called Second Vote. It's the number 2 ND and then vote. VOTE.
I don't understand these celebrities wanting this country to go to a socialist government.
Right.
These people who are making a great living want to destroy their source of income and destroy this country. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we were great because we were free. When do we want to live like the people in Russia?
Well, it's
or Chile?
Right. I mean,
It doesn't.
Venezuela, Cuba.
Yet the young people are embracing this. Some of the young people, because of the media and the propaganda that they're being fed in the colleges and all, which is another major problem, which they want to alter history and everything else. And I think because of ignorance, they don't know what it is to live under a socialist government.
Right, and you know, right now it's all flowers and you know
Well,
flowers.
everything
and-
is give me, free, free, free. We're going to take care of you forever.
Yeah, it's all flowers and sunshine, but the reality of it is just step back for 1 second and say, wait a minute. The government is providing 100% of the jobs. No one is earning anything to contribute the taxpayers' money to the government. So how does it go on? How is that sustainable long term? And then the college kids realize instantly, well, it's not. Eventually, it has to collapse. There's only so many buildings you can confiscate, bank accounts you can confiscate for you to go on. And if you took all the wealth of the top 1%ers in the country, you only survive for 9 months and then the country's
But
bankrupt.
people don't remember bread lines
Yeah,
in Russia where you had to wait in line for 8 hours to get a loaf of bread.
exactly right. And we saw a little bit of that rationing under Carter's administration with the OPEC crisis.
With
For
gasoline.
gasoline, you had to have vouchers to go get gasoline, and it went by your license plate. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. And in studio today, we have Larry Semprevivo and we have Commissioner Tim Zork. We will be right back after this break to hear the national news. Thank you very much.
I hear something funny.
Yeah.
You gotta get
We
your-
are.
That's okay.
Okay.
You know
People
who one
think-
of Jimmy Carter's energy advisors was during all the OPEC and all the gas problems? Joe Herman's dad,
You're
head of the
kidding.
Democrat Party and energy advisor to Carter. Because he was in the oil business.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's go out there. We got a 6-minute break.
I remember food stamps from the government.
Oh, so at the half hour, we got 36 minutes?
Yep.
You're younger today, so you don't remember standing in line to get
I tell you, my
get butter and
grandparents.
eggs. You had a little stamp.
In the U.S.
And yeah.
for every single person, like, or if
You
you
were
are
only issued so many stamps per month. And if you used your stamps, you didn't get no food. You didn't get sugar.
But that's only if you wanted to get that. That wasn't
Well,
you didn't eat. If you were a Rockefeller, you could not eat. So it wasn't for every person.
Right, for the average American person, not for the elite is always exempt from everything. Because the elite had like.
Oh, no, I did a record. That's probably.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah, when I saw that too, but yeah, I did
Yeah, there's no financial disclosure. But there is a financial disclosure. I'm the only one that approves this.
in here, you can see, I was part of the family. They treat me just tremendously. You say they talk, drink, and everything else. But the main thing is, they service my vehicles fantastically. I trust them so much. I even brought my Rolls Royce in there.
Okay, Route 60 Hyundai, they'll take you with the royal treatment, the red carpet treatment, as they have done for Larry. This is the mayor of the airwaves. 2 thumbs up for Route 60 Hyundai.
Thirty seconds.
He's trying to attack me. He's rolling to AFP. I'm killing his media credentials, so he won't be able to do any. I'm gonna nail him.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
just
that's where you're gonna fight him. That's where.
just getting started. That was refreshing.
They stole a sheet from me, another one. I had to get the sheriff yesterday. Frustrated.
This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. You know, I have in studio today Larry Semprevivo.
Good morning, son.
I call him Happy Pappy, and I have Commissioner Tim Zork.
Super
morning.
Commissioner.
Tim Zork. So we were talking about national politics and what's been transpiring with the rah-rah DNC show with them having all the celebrities on. You know, the Republican Party, here's the interesting thing. The RNC had two celebrities, essentially, Scott Baio and the other gentleman. And the issue is we have Ice Cube, Ice-T, and which combine them and you have an ice cold drink. But
Well, that's their party, the party of ice cold drinks
no, that's
and no
us.
substance.
That's Republicans.
Oh.
Ice Cube and Ice-T they're actually Republicans, and The Rock is actually The Rock has the new show now, Ballers on I think it's HBO.
Yeah,
or something,
I saw it.
about sports agents and stuff. He's also a Republican, and you start Rob Lowe. You have all these people that are Republicans, and when I was there, I was asking, why are we not drawing them in? And they said, this is not about bringing in major celebrities. We just, we want the real passionate people to speak
Right.
more so than
Like the mom from Stewart.
Bingo.
There.
Yeah, explain
Real life, real people.
Right.
Of what happened to her son and how the whole, the experience of her son being a Navy SEAL, how he died,
Yeah.
what he died for. And, it was real passion. And then some people said it brought her up there. Well, I'll tell you what, she has a story to tell. And unfortunately, it's a true story.
Right.
And the other side doesn't like hearing the truth sometimes.
Right. Well, so their counter to our emotional, because I got to tell you, the RNC, I thought that was one of the better conventions. It hit the hearts of Americans. It was very patriotic. We talked about the loss at Benghazi from the failure of Hillary Clinton. We talked about Lone Survivor with the Navy SEAL. And, we talked about our policies that are pro-American policies that we want to re-implement. What do? Black Lives Matter. They bring in literally people's parents for blacks that were shot for breaking the law. And, they're turning this, and this is what upsets me. My dad always taught me, and your dad as well. You never judge a person by their race. You judge them by their merit and their talent and their skill set, and that's how we should judge each person. How well do they work? What do they contribute to the community and the society? So they're bringing in the parents of criminals that were shot committing a crime, in the act of committing a crime. That was Brown and Trayvon Martin.
Right.
And so they're doing this to divide our nation.
They are on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, we have gone back since Barack Obama has been elected president for the last 7.5 years. We have gone back 50 years in race.
And race relations.
Oh,
And
my.
you know what it really irritates me? This Democratic Party has put the lives of our police officers at jeopardy, and they're causing them to be shot and killed because of this hate that they're creating.
Heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
I mean, I did 8 years of volunteer law enforcement in border drug interdiction and in the state police department. I did special investigations division, and I see these guys put on their uniform, and for the most part, the majority of them care about the citizenry and would jump in front of a gun to protect a mama and a baby, and that's the majority. Our
Right.
sheriff Lohr, I guarantee you, would run in front of a person who had a gun that was going to kill an innocent person. He would sacrifice his body, his life. That's the mentality. That's the mentality of them. They would sacrifice. And now you have Black Lives Matter going out there saying, kill the police. We're a black group. We're anti-white. The Black Panthers say, I hate white people. I mean, they're the racist. Can any of us create a White Lives Matter group without being arrested as, now the Democrats started the KKK, right? They started that group. They started that all-white anti-black group. The Republicans were opposed to slavery. The blacks were in favor of slavery. Martin Luther King, another Republican, the blacks hated Martin Luther King, and the whites loved Martin Luther King. And you look at this, now they're coming out openly saying, we hate white people. The blacks are saying,
And they threatened the cops, and none of them were arrested because the Attorney General will not prosecute and will not and they won't even pass a hate law to protect the police.
Right.
They will not do
Well,
that.
there should not. Now, in defense of that, there should be absolutely no laws created for a hate crime.
Well, they did it with Mr. Black.
Clinton did that. Blacks and gays. But I'll tell you this: to murder someone is hate, regardless of the color of their skin.
Absolutely.
So there should not be a new law created.
Right.
I'm opposed.
Everybody's
to.
equal.
Everybody is equal. If you look at America,
Well, that's the 14th Amendment.
Oh, no.
Everybody's created equal?
no, no, not at all. In our Declaration of Independence, but forget about that right now. What we have to look at when you look at equality in the United States, when you look at equality, you have to say, if you murder someone, you hate them. It's not an additional hate crime for doing that. Because if you think about it, there's fat people, and I'm speaking for my own people because I am chubby. So I'm on a diet. My wife put me on a diet with my mom and my dad. We're all on diets. But you have to look at there's fat people, there's thin people, there's people of different color, there's people of different ages. When you look at everyone, everybody's in a protected class. Everybody.
Except the Christian
white. Bingo.
Right.
And so they're the only, and if you step back from that, that's discriminatory, because white Christians, oh no, you have no separate protections. We, the government, hate you, the white Christian. You're responsible for all these evil things. But to me, that's what bothers me. It's just so ridiculous that this country is dividing. Sean, what are your thoughts?
But there is an absolute clear fact that these people are organized, have worked all of us in peace.
Yeah, it's so true. They're anti-gun. They're dividing us racially. They are anti-support for our military, anti-law enforcement. I mean, this is Woodstock.
That sounds like that's coming out of somebody's handbook.
Right. Yeah. Alinsky?
Zelensky's
Yeah.
handbook.
Yeah. And talk about that.
Well, it's, you create divisiveness between groups. You want people mad at each other. You want to trade, you want to then create income inequality, driving the wedge even further. And then they use those and then they leverage them.
Yep.
And then you also have the government side of, you get more people on the dole, more people getting the handout, so they become dependent on the government. So they defend and reelect those that keep giving them everything for free, instead of a program of opportunity to work and get off the government benefit side. Now, a couple things we can agree on. If you're a truly disabled person, whether military or born by birth or an accident or something, we want to take care of you. We want to take care of our veterans who served and protected our country and protected us.
Mhm.
We want to protect those people. But I see a lot of people with disability stickers and new cars and cell phones that, based on what people have told me, that they don't work. They're all on benefits. I'm like, he can jog into the store faster than I can.
Right.
And that's abusing anytime you abuse a system. We want to take care of those truly in need, especially our servicemen and women. We want to roll out the red carpet, and our law enforcement, all those folks, that we want to take care of them if something happens to them during their service. But it's changed so dramatically that places are judged by how many people are getting their benefits, how many people are getting free and reduced lunch versus how many people are not. Everything
Right.
is measured by how bad things are versus how good things are.
Well, if you look at the participation rate, and you have 62% participation rate, right? That means that out of the people looking for jobs, they're saying, I'm actually going out there and seeking employment. That is equivalent to pre-Carter days, right? And Barack Obama has that number. If you look at food stamps at 43 million to 47 million people, that's the worst in America's history on food stamps under Barack Obama's administration. If you look at the trade deficit, that the United States trade deficit, it is the worst in the last 40 plus years, pre-President Carter.
Mm-hmm.
This president, if you start looking at the numbers, the unemployment rate may be 4%, but that's because
You don't count. Now, you notice when he came into office, he moved, well, to touch on the other end,
Yeah.
how he shifted the demographics and the reporting into
got
the
it.
White House.
This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. We'll be right back after this break.
It was either the Bureau of Statistics that used to be a independent
BLS,
agency.
Bureau
Yeah.
of Labor and Statistics.
You know, they moved that
something
into
like
where then the White House gets to decide how those are calculated. So then you make the numbers whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, who's that? How do you like your new car?
Oh, I like it. It really rides better than my Cadillac.
Yeah.
Much better. And the service is tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always heard good things on the service out there.
Well, Tommy's a great, and really a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Skin cancer is no laughing matter. You should have a full body scan every year at Treasure Coast Dermatology with Dr. Tim Ide over on 37. That's right. Take care of yourself, and your skin will take care of you.
Rigo Paint Design Centers includes Vero Beach within its 11 locations
What,
throughout Florida. You
who's
can
kinda like
rely on
the-
Rigo Paint
I don't want to say the
Beach
facility
vendors
manager for
who choose only
the
best
cookie
experts
production
to assist you
out there. Is that
My son-in-law.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I figured it was
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, relative. Yeah, my son-in-law runs it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then we have the corporate office in Sebastian.
Right.
We bought 3 of those buildings
Mhm.
and the mall and a shopping center.
Yeah.
So we have corporate, and then we have the real estate office out of there.
Mhm.
And he's got a full plate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
somebody's got
Busy
to do
people get
something.
things done.
I think this politics is a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
And
it's-
you gotta put a lot of time in for a lot of you. But he's putting a lot of time for a non-paying job.
right.
I mean,
Well, with the hopes of changing the direction of the.
well, that's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
Yep,
That's the whole thing. He's got kids. And the way this country's going, you gotta have some young people that make some changes. The Republic Party is
it's gotten
stagnant.
so,
They are not progressive. They're not going to actively out there trying to solicit young people, convert them over. I just don't understand it. They want to keep everything the same and make the
Right.
same dumb decisions
same
and get the
mistakes
same
over and over.
dumb, bad candidates.
You
They
know,
only want to go to the elite and use them as candidates.
Mhm.
That era is gone.
Right.
People are up to here
There's
because,
so many people that have got used to making their living off of the Republican Party.
yeah,
Not so much Florida per se, because now they, you know, the guy that's,
Today's broadcast
Oh.
brought to you by
Can't go on a
Joseph
risk.
Sempervivo. Joseph Sempervivo, CEO of Joseph's.
This is Joseph Revivo filling in for Rhett Palmer. And in the studio today, we have Lawrence Semprevivo and we have Tim Zork in the studio. Oh.
for those watching on the YouTube channel,
Speedy
You get to-
Gonzalez came running in to get to the mic.
I may be fat, but I'm fast. I was in the other room and down the hallway in the green room, and we have a guest who's going to be doing the 10 to 10:30 show on his own about health, gurney. But what happened was, so I was in there, and then I hear Sean yell like 15 seconds. So I had to sprint down the hall. These little legs can move, I'll tell you.
you know, one thing, if we could, Joseph, that
Sure.
let's kind of go out on a positive note on a couple of things.
Yeah.
You and I both had a role model in our lives that instilled a lot of things in me. One, and I'm not talking about your dad, because both of my dad and your dad have done a lot, but there was a speech that Ronald Reagan made that I saw when I was, let's say, 18 or 19, where he said, one person can make a difference. Look at how many elections in the country, local elections, that are won by one vote
Yeah.
or less than 5 votes. That one person can have an idea. And that's what motivated me to get involved in local government, bringing this idea on saving tax dollars on fire station construction, was because of hearing that speech. And I'm thinking, who am I? I'm a nobody. I didn't even know Commissioner Grover. I mean, I knew the name, but I said, hey, I got an idea. Do you want to hear it? He's like, sure, come on over. And so when one person can make a difference immeasurably, and they just don't realize and make that connection. And then there's many other things that Ronald Reagan said that, one, I love jelly beans. So,
Yeah.
you know, I've taken my oldest son into what was the Air Force One at the end of the Reagan era, the 707 that's on display out in Seattle. There's so much-
Simi Valley, California.
Oh, that's right. And they have another one, a duplicate of that at the Boeing museum.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Right. They have the one at the
Leave it to
museum.
you going to an aviation.
Well,
museum.
yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
Right? But there's so many great things that that the Republican Party, I think, instills in people when they know the truth and the truth of the history of the party and what we stand for. We want all Americans to do well. You know, a rising tide raises all the boats in the harbor, not just my boat. And that seems to be more the Democrat platform. What do they do that works for them, for a particular group on something? I like it where we all benefit something. If I'm trying to bring jobs into the community, every job from the top down to the entry level. I've had somebody say, you know, hey, the jobs at Chick-fil-A, they're not that great. They employ 102 people with a multi-million-dollar payroll. Whether it's you're a full-time manager at a great salary or you're the part-time student working, these are all great opportunities.
And here's the big thing, the debate, and you're absolutely right, talking about the ripple effect. One person, one individual can make a great difference because that one individual talks to 10 of their friends and then their 10 of their friends talk to another 10. And you have the ripple effect or the multiplying effect. And I've always believed in it. My dad said, you may be one person, but when one person equals millions of people. And I said, and what the heck do you mean by that? He said, look, you take an action on something, you focus on something, you're going to affect somebody else's life, and then they're going to affect somebody else's life. And at the end, the return is you've affected 1 million people's lives. And one person, here I am, that I went to my dad and said, could you make me a sugar-free cookie? My mom and my dad, they made a sugar-free cookie for me. And I said, that's not good enough. I want to share it with other diabetics. And now we have 47 nations with the cookie, and we're making 12 million cookies in one day. So that is one person ultimately turned into.
Well, in the same breath, you met and worked with Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I
and
did.
he was impressed. You were so impressed with him that you are now getting into politics.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big, I interned for President Reagan post-presidency. And, you know, I, like yourself, Commissioner, I sat there and I looked at my 6 kids and my wife and referred back to my dad's words. And I talked to my mom and my dad and I said, you know, I don't like the way our party is moving. We're a do nothing, tail between our legs party. We don't plant our feet like Ronald Reagan did. My kids are not going to see a party that fights for the people unless we all start getting involved in electing people who believes in fighting. We have some exceptional senators in DC that believe in fighting, but that's not the majority. And my dad said, you know what? Don't talk about it. Instead, jump into it. And so that's, you know, that's what we're doing. And everybody can make a big difference from emailing and phone calling.
Right.
We know a lot of people in our party that does that. And, you know, so I think it's really important for us to get behind those candidates that want to make a difference. And to me, that's what it's all about. Now,
I think people don't realize how serious this election is. And it's really, in my eyes, it's the survival of America, the way of life that we have. And the people have got to get out there and vote. And they really, really have to protect their rights by voting.
absolutely. Sean, you got it.
I want to say this, that this election has transcended the name of Hillary Trump. It is simply as serious as this. You and I are going to vote for a true democracy. You're going to vote for a chaotic socialist.
Yep. And if you don't vote at all, that is a vote for Hillary Clinton. So that's why it's so important for you to go out. I mean, both Tim and I worked for another national presidential candidate, and you know, we are 100% behind Donald Trump because we realize if we don't vote for Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton becomes the president, and there goes our kids' future. There goes your kids' future. So we're proudly going to the polls and exercising our right and pushing the button for Donald Trump. That's your only choice. If you think you have another choice, you're throwing your vote away. And so you have to vote in this election. It's absolutely critical. You know, that's in November. But now, regarding our elections, I'm running for Republican State Committee man, and Tim Zorka is running for County Commissioner. That election is going to be August 30th, but you also have absentee and early voting that takes place. So you have 3 options to voting in the local election from sheriff down, because Posey's unopposed in the congressional race on the Republican side. But yeah, hit the polls, tell all your friends. It's really critical. But is there anything in closing remarks? We got a couple minutes. We have 2.5 minutes left.
You know, I'll do one last little short plug. August the 11th, for those interested in discussion on the lagoon, the Bethel Creek pipe connection. Going to be discussing the benefits and potential negatives of a temporary connection to measure the water quality benefits in the lagoon. And looking forward to that discussion with the people. This is in a series of about the 6th community outreach event I've had on whether it's the lagoon, Vero Beach Electric, the All Aboard Florida train, which we're all patiently waiting for Judge Cooper's decision to come down from Washington to let us know where we stand on that case. So we're anxious to hear the answer for that.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers. How about closing comments for you?
Well, I just, since he mentioned the train, today coming to the studio, there was just a train there. We had to wait. Could you imagine 30, 40 trains a day? It was just
Oh,
Or imagine
completely.
if you're in an ambulance trying to get to the
Oh my
hospital.
God.
that's a big issue.
It is.
And if you live on the beach, you're dying. Because if there's an emergency situation, you're not getting, I mean, there's no hospital to take care of you on the ocean, on the beach side, so all those individuals are going to be completely isolated. All the people on the mainland are going to be isolated from the hospital
Mhm.
because the railroad train, unless you live in that little slice of property by the hospital, they're the only ones that are going to be safe in the community.
Well, you see, there's no benefits to this train for the people at Vero Beach.
None, zero. So we had a very engaging show. We wanted to kind of talk about the emotional side of politics, the familial side of politics, and rather than, pounding away about policy and stuff. This is Joe Semprevivo, and we're on the Rhett Palmer Show. In the studio today, we have Larry Semprevivo, and we have Commissioner Tim Zork, as well as our engineer. This is Joe Semprevivo. We'll be talking tomorrow, starting at 8 o'clock. Thank you. All right.
So somebody come in for the 10:30 show now?
Yeah, 10 to 10:30. He has his own show.
Okay.
So, and then I'll be back on at 11 to 11:30 today.
I could have made the damn appointment if I'd have known that.
Yeah, I didn't know. Brett and I talked, and he said that we would be on until about 11.
What's the first one?
It's here for now. Well, actually, I'll read it once. Emailed.
So really, he's going to yank his credentials.
Yeah, here, let's go out here. So when he did the first post, the first Facebook post, and when he did that, you're up at 10, right? Yeah. So it's all yours. Yeah. So what happened was I called Chris is in charge. Oh, do you? Good. You worked at that printing press, as you know, across the farm. Yeah. So, but you're I'll listen to your show here, so I'm gonna say here, yeah.
Anybody sitting in or?
No, it's you. So, I know. Brett had nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so,
I want to sit in and then I can chit chat with or?
Joseph's a diabetic. Did you know that?
You know, I'm interested with the cookie thing. I like to talk to them about that. We can kind of spit off that.
Can you ask for Kristen again?
Sure. Yeah.
It's a half an hour, 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. No problem.
Perfect, there you go.
Yeah.
No more media credentials. And that means you can't go to any more AFP events, period.
Yeah, I
Sorry, Chris.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, where do you want me?
Take the hot seats. I'm always sitting across from Rhett, so. if you
Oh,
want,
sure,
yeah, we
sure,
can-
sure. You got it.
Yeah,
So you
man.
guys are going blue and yellow, okay.
Okay.
We got it.
You said Chris, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you work with Puyon?
I have a, it was Elite Physiques, now it's Ocean Drive Elite Physiques. Me and Dr. Durkin kind of buddied up and doing some mixed business, but, or mutual kind of commune business. But the fact with the cookies and the diet, and you do sugar, we can talk about election because, with this, I was saying about stress eating, we'll kind of chit chat, but I'd like to talk to you about that and kind of go into the whole carb thing and why that's important and how to identify that and the diabetes things.
You doing the lead? Are you ask the questions or you want me asking? What do you normally do with Rhett?
He normally kind of he'll spark up and he'll drop like an intro question and when I kind of feed off that, and so if you feel comfortable just kind of opening things up, and if there's a question you have and open it, I can go on, so we can kind of work on that.
Okay, perfect.
But definitely I'd like to talk about the company and the cooking and how you evolved in that. I can say, well, Joe, I understand,
Yeah.
this cookie company I've heard about, And do you know, with people who are diabetic or things like that, do you offer a product like that and kind of talk about some stuff like that?
Perfect.
And lead back to about how that's
I mean, you could
important?
ask about how do I eat? I'm running for Republican state committee man in the
Yeah.
county. So how do you eat when you're jumping from location to location to
Right.
location? How
Right.
do you manage that with diabetes?
Yeah.
Being an insulin dependent diabetic, I
Right.
can answer that. Hopefully, we got a couple more minutes. We
Because
got 2 more minutes.
All right, see you guys.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so we could do that. I'll shut this door.
Yeah.
real quick. So there's no contingency. So that's fantastic. So tell me briefly about your business so I can.
I've been in the health industry for a while, for 27 plus years, and back prior to 2000, I just need to be rooted. I was involved with different gyms, and I was involved with supplements and designing them and making them and flying around. I need to be rooted. And Bureau's a great town. Bureau Beach is an affluent town, beachside community, and I was known in the area for a while for doing the work I did. I'm like, what, I'm just going to home base it, give myself a shot, do it private, but private to the public, open, because you have your JIs and your Windsors. I said, but I have
We're about 2 minutes out.
so I decided to take a gamble and, kind of on a nickel, opened the place up and took a risk on getting a space, and had a buddy of mine who had done big, business involved, with facilities. He had nursing homes. He's like, I'll teach you how to do leases. I'll educate you. I was willing to take the chance. So that was almost 18 years ago. So I've been there since. I've opened up my satellite facility by Rossway Moore, Swan,
Yeah.
on Miracle Mile. They're good buddies. They were in my building years ago. Then they relocated to the Modern One building, whatever you want to call that. They call that still on the corner of
Yep. The Miracle Mile. Yeah.
So I've had that satellite place there for at least 6 years now, 5-6 years. It's operated the same way. We have private trainers. We do nutrition counseling. We have RDs on staff. But I never had gotten a license as a registered dietitian, but I've done this stuff for so long.
Yeah. You just know this stuff.
When I did go to school, I did go back. I was an engineering student initially. Took a hiatus, went back 8 years later for anatomy and physiology, and just it clicked. Things just click.
Yeah.
Things just kind of work.
Yeah.
And was actually going to was kind of in line to being a physical therapist as I was going back to school. Had some offers by some companies to fund it, to actually pay. And got, licensed as a personal trainer, did the little weekend warrior stuff. And started working with people, and I just like working with people. I kind of had that caregiver mentality.
Yeah.
And plus, I played ball as a kid into college, so that was, always my end. And it just kind of kept parlaying to this, and so it's been good to me. I'm almost 47 now, and everything's gone really well. So it's nice.
God, that's fantastic.
So
You
45 seconds out.
You have the entrepreneur spirit. What's say your last name one more
Gurney,
time? Gurney.
like things in the hospital.
Gurny. Okay. And your name of your company?
Ocean Drive Elite Physiques.
Tim, you're going to roll, or Joe, you're going to roll right after this.
What's that?
They're gonna roll right after.
I don't
this.
have the Joe's cookies on this one.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Semprevivo, and in the studio today, Ocean Drive, Elite Physique. Chris Gurney is in the house. How you doing, Chris?
Hey Joe, good to meet you. Actually,
Yeah.
I heard the name around town and what's happened, but good to meet you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. So you have this business. You are an entrepreneur. You created this company because you love health.
Absolutely.
You love anatomy and physiology, and you're a super passionate person about your profession, which I can tell. He walks in here, he's got an Under Armour blue tight shirt. He's been working out. He's got his Under Armour hat. Are you being sponsored by Under Armour?
But keep talking. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll get the phone call later on. Hopefully, you never know.
Yeah. So, what got you passionate? Because I know you played high school and college ball, but
Right.
what got you passionate about the healthcare industry?
If I look back, through the archives, a little kid, I had allergy problems when I was a kid. I was firstborn. I'm the golden boy son. I do have a sister who's younger, but so my mom we always joked that, I lived hospital clean. She had, rubbing alcohol on one hand and Lysol on the other. So I never developed an immune system. So I developed allergy issues for 9 years. I took shots. So that was one issue. Young preteen, little spot of scoliosis was identified. So looking through that, so I went from one issue to another. My family doctor says, well, wait till after puberty and start working out with some weights. So that was like the first drop of the whole weight thing. Then later on in life, I took to the weights, through sports, kind of parlayed into, after moving from New York to Florida and thinking, school down in Florida, going to college. I said, let me try this, I seen everybody working out in the gyms and kind of getting buff. And I took some inherently good advice and misinterpreted the bad advice by misinterpreting eating more protein to lacking carbohydrates for fuel and developed hypoglycemia. So from that, it drove me back to school. I was initially going into school for engineering, so it's kind of, I'm a problem solver mindset, math guy.
Right.
Closet computer geek.
Yeah.
But sports enthusiast on the outside. And it was really intriguing to me. So going into that, I'm like, wow, there is an issue. You talk to a doctor about low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, he'll say, well, have a piece of candy, you'll be fine. That's not the way the case is. And hypoglycemia really parallels the way diabetics should eat too. So from that point, it led me to sports nutrition and training people and getting certified and more. And it's just when you kind of click in the right footsteps of what you're designed to do in life, you become passionate and that's where you're driven.
No matter what your profession is, and I think that's a really fantastic answer, Chris, because no matter what your profession is in life, if you're not passionate about it, people know it and you fail.
Yeah.
And you've been doing this, 17, 18 years?
Yeah, very close, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you moved to Vero Beach, and this is the stories to me that I just absolutely love, because you're a job creator, you're helping people. I mean, if you're keeping them healthy, you're keeping them going to work. And, our community needs people working. So that's a really fantastic thing. So now, with hypoglycemia, you have low blood sugar. Does that affect the way that you perform at all?
It does, because as people say, when they get hungry they get hangry. And I'm an up person. I'll just get kind of quiet, and my wife will know, he needs to eat pretty soon. So there's the ability where I'm more insulin sensitive that way, where diabetics are insulin non-existent.
Right.
So the type of carbohydrates and sugars and everything that you eat in combination with the right foods to control the insulin, where diabetics are, you have different types, but they're monitored by what they can take in regards to matching their foods. And again, balance is still the key.
Right. If you consume protein, then you create more of a beeline on your blood sugar.
Exactly. It's a grounder. It kind of keeps it kind of anchored, where if it just enable or put in carbohydrates on its own, then it reads that glycemic index that everybody talks about, it means something. So that scale of blood sugar dropping, how it dumps in there becomes a big factor.
Right. And what Chris is talking is, if you think of a yo-yo, someone playing a yo-yo, and the little yo-yo drops down when you put the string on your finger, and then you want to bring it back up, it spikes upwards towards your hand. That's called a yo-yo effect. So if you could look at that as a chart, that's what your blood sugar does. If Chris consumes a massive amount of, say his blood sugar's low, and he consumes a massive amount of carbohydrates or sugar, orange juice, soda, whatever, that yo-yo skyrockets to his hand. So it goes from the ground to his hand. His sugar's high. His pancreas says, oh no, I got high blood sugar. I need to produce insulin. And it starts shooting out units of insulin. So what happens to the yo-yo? It drops back to the floor. And if you look at that, if you graph it, it's up, down, like a mountain peak. And so that's what Chris is referring to. So that's where your diet comes into.
It's pinnacle for that. And the more you can control a nice steady wave events of your body and blood sugar means, then it means steady metabolic burn.
Right.
Whenever you have a spiky metabolism, I call it, like you said, the yo-yo effect, or I call it like a heartbeat effect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're out of a good fat burning or this body burning mode thermogenically.
Yeah.
So, and it's not easy. I mean, you see pills on TV, everybody's, oh, eat what you want, take this, take that. After almost 30 years in the business and seeing what's out there, and you and I mean, you're a young guy, but I've seen all the crazy diets out there.
Yeah.
From grapefruit diet to cabbage soup and this and that, and some people know me in town, like when paleo came really big, became fashionable. I think it's kind of cultish in certain workout forms, They say, well, yeah, what do you think? Or if it's a different product in the market, it just becomes that product or that diet of the year or the month.
Right.
And it just comes down, even though with paleo, I mean, not that I'm trying to validate any which one, but it's about clean food eating. They're very astringent and kind of Cro-Magnon-ish with it,
Yeah.
but it's about just eating clean and it's doing the right things and it's trying to control what you're eating. But I always say the word balance. Balance is it.
Yes.
And balancing out your stuff, like, throwing the vegetables in there, but with the protein, the carbs. If you know that when you're making a meal, you're identifying, okay, is all that stuff in there? Then it makes it sound.
Yeah, exactly. And so when people come to you and say, "Hey, look, Chris, I'm going on the paleo. I'm going on the Atkins. I'm going on." Well, what is your advice to them?
Well, the fact that people are sitting with me, it means there's an interest. You don't want to say, "Oh, you're doing something wrong," because I'm not that I don't live in that negative world. I'll say, "Okay, look, you're in a good start. Let me explain to you how I do things," and kind of try to fill in the gaps and kind of almost like smooth in what I'm doing and transfer one ideology from what they're doing into mine,
right?
Without saying, "Well, you're doing all that wrong. Oh, that's crazy." It's like I'm not trying to challenge them.
Right.
I'm trying to engage them more and have them understand and let them listen to what I'm talking about. So they say, "Wow, that is pretty cool. Okay, I like that," or, "Oh, I can really do that," and not have to go so astringent. Because when you go from extreme left to right, as we're looking at what this election coming up, we're looking at, it's you don't get the balance in there. You have to be somewhere in the middle and kind of smooth it, so you're getting all of the effect in the center.
So when you have with your 30 years experience, your 18 years as an entrepreneur in this industry, what do you see on probabilities of success when you're on these extreme diet programs? What's the failure rate?
It's 100%. I mean, if you go extreme, it's 100. You will have timetable effect of progress. And eventually, if you see, like, there was been articles about the Biggest Loser people.
Yeah.
That they, the main focus is that I'm sure they're very calorie restricted, workout intense focus, and eventually they're setting up for disaster.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Everybody needs to kind of intro it the same way. Some people may intro very low on a scale of 1 to 10 of where they are physically and food sound or nutritionally sound. And you kind of just plug and play them and say, okay, and graduate them so they make really solid progress. I'm not trying to play wizard with people. Can I get people to lose a lot of weight in a short time? I could, but it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be safe. I like to do it healthy because time is on everybody's side.
And it's kind of like prison with recidivism.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because somebody breaks the law, they wind up going back, high probability of going back over 87% or whatever. And then with weight loss, it's the same thing. If you go on these extreme diets, you lose it, or you maybe lose it super fast.
Right.
I've heard people about milkshakes and people with pills, everything else. And then next thing you know, you've gained it all back. So what's really the purpose? You don't want to do that. You want to have a balanced diet, and you want to be realistic with your exercise regime. You don't want to be able to run 30 miles a day when in a year from now you're only going to be able to fit in a mile a day. You do what's realistic and what's to your schedule. I do the same thing because I'm running for Republican state committee man, and being a diabetic, I'm bouncing around quite a bit. I'm at this event, that event, this event, and you have to be able to be prepared.
Yeah, kind of grab and go stuff. Yeah, it has to be no brainer.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the thought of a fast food, of something kind of quick and pick, and you stop in a 7-Eleven or Cumberland Farms, I mean, that's as fast as you can go. But there are some decent choices you could make.
Yeah, exactly. And if you know about them getting into it, it makes it a lot easier. When we return back after this commercial break, I'm going to ask you some of your success stories because I really would like to hear how you've touched people's lives and turned their lives around from a success standpoint.
Absolutely.
And then I want to find out your contact information. So if people do have questions about, hey, how do I get a hold of Chris Gurney, then we can give your contact information because a lot of people are going to want to go to Ocean Drive Elite Physique and have a private meeting with you. So that's what we want to do. This is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show with Ocean Drive Elite Physique entrepreneur Chris Gurney. We will return back after this short break. Thank you very much. Is that we're live on YouTube also. Is that the direction that you want to take?
Perfect. Yeah.
You want to be taking this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, so when we return, I want to hear some of your success stories. Share it with the listeners because that's huge. especially the emotional aspect. What it was like when they came into your office and how they felt when.
Because and that's it. It is a strong mental thing.
Yeah.
Because people always ask how much is it 50% training, is it 50% nutrition, is it 80-20, or it's mostly nutrition? Well, it's mental. It's 100% mental.
It is.
Because I can have the best laid out plan, print on a gold scroll, and the president can sign it. Doesn't mean anything. It means nothing unless you accept it. So, and it's a chemistry trust.
Yeah.
It's how you gel with people. And all our clients are the same way. The vibe of the place is cool. I mean, it has a really good feel when you walk in. When people come in, they know, me in town. They know when they come in to see me, they're very serious. There are some that they're intimidated when they come from my buddy Dr. Allen's place. In most cases, if they're coming for weight issues, it's because they're going in for a tummy tuck or something because they're very overweight. But there is a Mason-Dixon line of how much body fat, the BMI, needs to be at a certain crest level. If it's above, it's no good either. So think about dealing with that person that just got really kind of negated from a doctor. Say, look, you're not ready for it yet. You need to go see my guy next door. And now think of the conversation I have to have with that person that's really now double depressed.
You're absolutely right. Did you want a bottle of water?
Yeah, I'll take a little one, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, thanks.
You want water, Sean?
Yeah, thanks, John.
Oh, thanks. As much as it pains me to try to watch the DNC, conventions, try to get the after
1 minute out.
From of course from Fox's opinion, of course, being conservative, of course, Republican, but I started off as a Democrat. My dad was an electrical worker, local 3 out of Queens, this and that, so I grew up a very democratic way. You become your own business. You become an entrepreneur. You're making your own money. You don't want to give this shit away. It's like, I'm working hard. People need to kind of do their due diligence and being part of the system.
Yeah.
It's like people with social benefit. I always say, you know what? I don't care if people get money on the return. You need to be in the system. You need to file your tax return. It's to some capacity, and then you have the ability to vote. You should be able to vote because you're like a child. If you're receiving a social benefit, by no means you should be able to vote for that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And people, they will be up in arms, but it's just reality. It's like, but people are so disabled now by it.
It's so true.
And you almost can't have fault because now you say, well, I got this money. I can't do it now. I've been given this money. I'm
all in.
I mean, so it's just, it's nutty.
Great morning, Vero Beach. This is Joe Sempervivo on the Red Palmer Show in Studio Live. We have Ocean Drive Elite Physique with Chris Gurney. Hey, welcome, Chris.
Hey, Joe. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man.
Fellow Paisano. Hey,
yeah.
The last name was actually Ukrainian, but my mom was full-blood Italiano. So I'm from the Bronx originally, New York.
My name, I always tell everybody because nobody can pronounce it. I say Semper, like Semper Fi, Semper, and then like wine, vino.
Right.
My name is Vivo, which means life. So Semper Vivo means always alive. That's the interpretation of my name. Right. With my energy, people say, "Oh my goodness, you're always alive." Do you ever sleep? And the answer is very, very little.
Born into the name and get to live it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when before we went to break, we were talking about the emotional aspect of this job. You get people. You've been doing this for 18 years in the industry in general, 30 years. Right. For the love of the body. And tell me and tell all of us. some of your success stories. What happened emotionally when they came in?
There's one that kind of initially comes to mind, and a lot of it is with, with women and younger girls, say high school to college, very emotional. Initially, they're a bundle of emotion anyway. I had one young girl had come in through another client of mine who's a physician. She says, you know what, I think this girl would benefit by seeing you. She's very short, maybe 5'2", maybe 5'1", and she's, is overweight. And I think she can, do good by you. You can do good for her. So we had a meeting, and she came in, adorable girl. And the first thing she said, which was perfect, without me even saying anything, she says, Mr. Gurney says, I want to get healthy.
Oh.
Perfect. Not about weight, and it was apparent, this and that. And it came, me meeting her came right off the hip of me watching a documentary show on HBO about this center. I think, I don't know if it's down south. It's a women's center for eating disorders and all. And they went through all this chaos about the eating, and they would show the show and people coming out of going into recovery, and they were leaving and being dismissed, and almost everybody came back. And the one thing I kind of found at fault, and I'm not a psychologist by any means, or psychiatrist, or done work like that intensely, but the thing I think where they went wrong is everything was focused around food. You make sure you eat, and these are people that are either bulimic, anorexic, they're serious issue girls, and it could be life-threatening to a point, especially the anorexic people.
Yeah.
At least with with bulimics, there's nutrition going in, but even though that's to do that whole process is a scary thing.
Right.
So I'm like, wow. So she's sitting in front of me, and I asked her. I said, look, we started talking for a few minutes to get comfortable, and she was just charming, and she was it. I mean, mentally, she was there. And I said, you know what? I watched the show, and I told them my spiel what I thought. And I said, you know what? I think the fact that they focus all this on food constantly,
right,
without making them give them other diverted thoughts versus always food. It's like a person with drugs. If you keep showing drugs to them, they're going to be, I can't think about nothing but drugs, and they're going to either go for it or just be remiss from it. And she goes, Mr. Gurney, you're exactly right. She goes, that's it's a really good mindset to think that way. So it was stepping stones with her, because with everyone, there's a reason why people are doing certain things. Hers was a bulimia issue. There was a regurgitation issue. And the trigger was actually her mom, who was a darling woman. And there were things the mother would either say that would trigger her. And the one thing this young girl can control, beyond what her mother was trying to do, and not in a bad way, but just in the reaction of mom and daughter,
right,
was the fact that she can control what she can do to herself. So that was so you have to find that trigger first. It's not just you kind of reach in and try to pull out the bag of tricks. And we went along. It would take, would go days. I had an episode, we call it, and it was to a point where, and it's a communication part that I'm there for her and I care for her. And it would go a week at a time, then she'd fall back, and then it went to months, and months became almost a year. And now this girl, she's graduated. She's down in Miami going to college. Been phenomenal. We still communicate. She's like a daughter of mine. And she's a success story. I mean, she's lost great weight. She still has a few. She's not in peak as she was, but she's tens of pounds. Has probably lost 30, 40 pounds at least. Always is in town.
But she was bulimic.
She was bulimic.
Well, so everybody has this kind of impression when someone's bulimic, they're taking either laxatives or they're self-propelling,
right,
for regurgitation. And they're usually really thin.
Yeah, see, it's not always the case. Because when people do that multiple times a day, they're plunking, it could be thousands of calories at a shot. Understand that once the food leaves your mouth, it goes into your stomach, you nearly have absorbed about half of that at that point. Digestion begins in the mouth. By the time it hits your gut,
saliva, yeah.
So if you retain 25-30% of those calories, do that 3-4 times a day.
Yeah,
it adds up, and then because it's so inconsistent and so abnormal, your body's completely shut down. So you're just sucking in calorie because your body's so twisted.
Have you seen someone that had anorexia nervosa at the same time as bulimia?
Some years before that, I had a gal who was actually in college and would come back to see me. And she wasn't told by me, but by her friend that brought her to me, that she had these issues. So again, it's a chemistry issue where, or a relationship where there's trust. Please, and try to understand them, because it's on the more emotional side, and try to figure out what's happening with them.
Right.
Because that's always the end issue.
Yeah, right.
It's not the beginning start.
You want to find causation.
Exactly.
What caused it? So politically speaking with you, you run your own business.
Correct.
So your dad was a union guy.
But that was a local 3 electrical worker from a young guy. Then he ran his own shop later on. Highly Democrat, New York City kid from the Bronx, Yonkers, Democrat all the way.
Yeah.
Come to Florida, I get involved in doing. I'm my own boss. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm trying to make money for myself. I'm happy to. I love to have people around me. I'm helping them with jobs.
Right.
But to see the way the country's been going, and the chaos that's happening now, everything with the people just going nuts and cops and people getting shot and all these different groups that are picketing. It's going left and right sideways.
Yeah.
We need to find common ground.
Yeah.
But the fact to tell me that I need to give away more of my business because other people are, the population was so highly behind a socialistic, mentality is scary.
Yeah. So what you're saying is when you became a business owner, then you moved
To the
more
Republican side,
conservative.
very fiscally conservative. I have a liberal side to it, but mostly fiscally conservative.
Yeah. Because you've earned
I've earned it, as
your
well as
business.
I understand you too. You have your own company as well, correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
Company,
yeah. I mean, this is no giveaway. I don't want the government's already half our business partner anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to be 90% of it.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, I pay 39.6% to the
I hear
federal
you.
government.
Oh,
And, then you have to take into consideration state, local
everything.
taxes. So now, someone's listening and they want to lose some weight. What's, just real briefly, what's the most somebody has ever lost going to see you over the long haul?
I have had 80, 90 pounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wants to visit you at Ocean Drive Elite Physique, how do they contact you?
My number at Ocean Drive Elite Physiques is 772-234-5473, or visit us at oceandriveelitephysiques.com.
Okay, oceandriveelitephysique.com. You talk to Chris Gurney. They would
Yes.
just actually talk to you.
Yes.
Nice. And they would call 772.
234-5403.
Okay. And this is Joe Semprevivo on the Rhett Palmer Show. And we have in studio Ocean Drive Elite Physique, Chris Gurney. And his number is 772-234-5403.
5403.
Make sure you ask for Chris Gurney. He'll be able to get you back on track and get you living a healthy lifestyle. Thank you for listening to the Rhett Palmer Show. This is Joe Semprevivo. I want the milk every second for you.
No, that was
so we have
perfect.
30 seconds left.
No, man, that was great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
okay, perfect. This is really good. Let me give you one of my cards too. My
Yeah.
cell phone's number's
Oh,
on there.
perfect.
My personal email's on there. Just give me a buzz. That way you don't have to call my office and then
Yeah.
patch it through me or anything.
Awesome.
But this is great. I'm so happy that we got to
Yeah.
face to face.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Talk about your business. And, it is super true. When you open up your own business, the best way to become more conservative is by opening up your company, because you see all the legislation, all the work, that everything that's passed affects us directly.
Oh my
And
God.
all the paperwork you have to do.
And even dealing with people. I mean, I have lots of clients of mine. Dr. Bill Mounds is he's on the show with Brett, and I have 10, 12 doctors that are friends of mine that are clients of mine, and you hear what they've gone through with the Obamacare and
Yeah.
having
Oh,
to do their
man.
billing system, and it's just you're adding another intermediary position for zero.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and I hear all this stuff.
No gain, only a
No.
loss to your company. I love that
It's-
one.
Oh my God,
He's so brilliant.
he's sharp on every angle,
He is.
big time.
He was telling me about the not going from 9 to 10 on the version for Obamacare for the classifications for injuries and what that meant. It went 16,000. I mean, just all the different things he was telling me about. And I was like, so you have to have another person just keystroking.
Just that.
Yep. And he said, yeah. And so what happens? You're going to have to inflate your cost of service in order to deal with the compliance issue.
Yeah.
And not $1 added to your bottom line. It's just going to subtract from your
And
profits.
on top of that, like initially, because we've now become box checkers.
Yeah,
And what it does, it dilutes your time with your patient,
of course.
which he loves to be. I mean, give the
He's
patient.
hands-on, great bedside. And then so now you created an assembly line, just like we have in education. Everything is an assembly line approach. How many people go in? how many people have to graduate, how many we have to push through the class to make it a profit, how many we have to push to get a master's degree, because a master's degree they make 100%, a bachelor's degree they make 30% profit. So bachelor's degrees are worthless to
Yeah.
them. They really need to get masters. PhDs are 300% profit. So their whole goal is to get everybody to a PhD in order to be profitable in academia. It's just ludicrous, you know, and that's why you have people like Bernie saying free college education to everybody.
Yeah.
Because then it helps the school. They get bachelors.
I got you. Yeah.
Everybody who graduates worthless. Now you
It's
have a
zero.
high school diploma.
Yeah.
So you're flipping burgers for the rest of your life. You're
Yeah.
not getting promoted.
Where college, 4 years was decent. Maybe you find a decent wage or get in the door, at least 1 foot in.
Where'd you go when you were going engineering? Where'd you go to school?
I was accepted to FIT, FAU. Didn't think about Miami. We wasn't a tech school, but my high school sat on my transcripts and we lost them. We don't know where they are. So I'm like, well, let me at least go to Brevard Community. Let me at least.
Oh, good.
So I did for a year or so, and my dad was having he shut a shop down up in New York, came here to work because there's union everywhere.
Yeah.
Back then in the mid, because we came here in '87, they were pretty kind of.
We have the religious show on from 10:30 to 11.
Okay, good. So we're
And then
done.
Steve Holt is from 11 to noon.
Okay, yeah.
You guys are set.
Good.
So they were kind of, with him being here, they were kind of not right, but just him being the northern guy, they're southern. He's like, shit, the work isn't happening here, so you got to go back up north.
Right.
Reopen the shop and kind of get there. And you come home on the weekends. And we're type family. It was me and my sister. She was 8, and I'm in school in the morning. I'm playing ball in the evenings, practicing with the team, and I took a break from school. My dad's gone. I was kind of missing him and everything and all that kind of stuff. And so I took a hiatus for a little while and just worked and did stuff, and fortunately found my way back to school, which it really put my nose into really. But I said it took something to kind of kick that off. You look back now, everything connects to here.
Yeah.
But back then you don't know. But it took me kind of having a little bit of I'd say illness, but disorder to kind of figure it out. And in school, I was like math guy, formulas. So I hated science.
Yeah.
And now it's like, forget it. But engineering, kinesiology, everything fits.
Yeah.
It was all about figuring out how can I do it a better way. And on top of it all, everything I've done, I'm not the biggest guy. I've never taken like one steroid or PED, nothing.
Right.
So everything I've learned has been all el natural. So it's legit. Because when I started back when I was 21, when I got my first little certification.
I'm listening to you. I just
That's
have to
okay.
do this while I'm listening to you, but I am listening to every word you're saying.
No,
Please
it's all
tell
right.
me. But go ahead. Continue.
So I just said, if I'm going to be this council person, I vow to myself that I'm going to, because I compete, I do like the bodybuilding stuff. I'm not going to ever, I don't care how hard it is, how far I may or may not go, I'm not going to dive into that world because then I become a hypocrite. I can talk to Joe, some people here, and give you honest appraisal of what's going on. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here all jacked up on stuff where my view's been skewed. So where I've come from the past 27, nearly 30 years of watching my food, my intake, and basically using Publix as my key supplement, it's legit. I'm not saying, well, you need to have like this hydroxycut or this fat burner and take that. Not that there's wrong with certain things, but you can go into GNC and I'll tell you 90% of it is not even needed.
Well, what do you think of that? Because I've heard a lot of different debates about how the FDA should monitor those things, for like all those pills and stuff.
Well, the thing I would say is, when it comes to food supplements, at least to back up, like I don't mind taking, say, a protein powder or maybe a good balanced bar, like the Quest bars, like say for someone like yourself.
Right.
You want the ones that are closely balanced where it's got about, you don't want the high sugar and the carbs almost match the protein, a little bit of fat, so that's a perfect balance.
Right.
Say for someone like yourself. Or even a protein shake is good. Like, Rhett drinks his Shaklee stuff, whatever that stuff is. But the other things where it becomes, hormone booster, this and that, science always going to evolve. Is it all necessary? Is it harmful? I mean, probably none of it probably is. My biggest beef with regulation is making sure that the stuff you're taking when it regards to a food supplement is credible. Because back years ago, when Bill Phillips had EAS, they were canned for a while because they were the first ones they caught them that they were not fulfilling their nutritional.
So if you're saying you're buying vitamin B12, it better be vitamin B12.
Yeah, and not some filler garbage and junk. Because then
Mhm.
all of us going to slap a label and say, "Oh, here you go, give me $20 for that." It costs
Yeah.
me a nickel to make it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's a falsehood. And half anything that people take anyway is all placebo.
Yeah, there's a placebo effect.
So I kind of have done it where, you know what, let me stay on the straight track. And I'm not against people even taking like the fat burner things, but establish a good eating program first.
Yeah.
Because because once people take something that's kind of like that, you know, it suppresses appetite and yeah, again, it's got that short-term effect, just like yo-yoing. You're suppressing. I'm not hungry. Okay, so you're going to be, you know, burning more calories than putting in. So yeah, by numbers it works, but you know what? Again, you hit that stop.
Right.
Then what happens?
Yeah.
So and then you know people will do that constantly. They constantly yo-yo themselves.
You know what I went on? You know, I went on Nutrisystem only because I needed that non-thinking.
Yeah.
You know,
it's no brainer.
Yep. When I went to the RNC, I was an alternate delegate. My wife packed a suitcase. I put all my snacks in there. I put, you know, all my dry food because I couldn't bring any refrigerated. Right. So I brought or frozen. I brought all the dry food, and it was super easy. And so the very first thing in my head, I said, well, how am I, when I conclude this, you know, I'm going to be on it for 10 months. How is this a lifestyle change? Because that's really the thing. Right. I'm a very disciplined person and by nature. I gained my 100 pounds because my wife, we've had 6 babies, and I came from a bankrupt family. So every time my wife would not eat her food pregnant, I would take her plate and I would finish it after eating my whole meal. I don't eat a lot of carbs. I don't eat junk food.
Right.
I don't drink sodas, diet or regular, because
right.
I'm a diabetic.
Right.
And so I'm not eating unhealthy. I'm just eating. It's input and output, right?
Yeah,
I'm not exercising. I'm sitting at a desk 18 hours a day, and I am packing in 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And so I know what my thing is. So what am I going to do at the exit of this? So I said, look, it's very simple. When I lose my weight, I will transition to regular food, balance, because then my stomach is shrunk.
Right.
I'm not used to eating all these calories. And I will get weighed at that point on a daily basis rather than a weekly basis. If I see that I go up 3 pounds, 4 pounds, because that's how much I gain in a day, like 2 to 3 pounds, I will instantly go back on it as kind of a maintenance and trim back down until I get that perfect point of this is how much I have to eat in a day, 1,800 calories a day or whatever. And that's what I'm going to do. But I've enjoyed this program. I've tried Atkins, I tried Weight Watchers, I tried, and it's just not for me. I don't want, you know, formulas to look at. I do math all day long. I don't want formulas to look at.
You want just 30 here?
Yeah,
I'm going to eat it.
Prepackaged, boom, a heat and eat, you know, microwave it, you're done, and a massive amount of vegetables. So that's the balance aspect.
Yeah. And with vegetables, they're kind of like the filler food.
Yeah.
Eat a bushel of them.
Exactly.
Because it's a passive nutrient because it's that sweep into your system and you draw from nutrient. See, you don't absorb those calories from that, which is very minimal, than you would say a potato.
Right.
Even though potatoes are good, which you're eating early, because that's assimilated through the starch into your intestine, where the fiber, the roughage goes through you, and that kind of thing. So
I got it.
Get that. Okay. Hey, pleasure talking to you.
Chris, absolutely.
Hey, we'll talk soon, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, spread the word too, man.
Of course.
Need your assistance.
Oh yeah, man.
This is Joe, Sempre Vivo. Yes, sir. Hi. Yes, sir. We filled it out and we did submit that. Thank you, Pastor. I think also, Pastor, we submitted everything via email. Did you not get that version?
let me ask you something, see.
Yes, sir.
Yours is considered MAS.
The name of the show is Making America Strong Again, and so I think in the Dropbox and in all the other things, Shane saved it as MASA something.
Okay, got that. What is DW?
What is DW? I have no idea.
That's, and you're from
Patriot Mission is the name of the company.
right, no, I'm saying, so you're a half hour, you're from 11 to.
Oh, from 11 to 11:30. I'm from Mars. It's
See, one of
sometimes.
the problems has been is that when somebody creates files, we go through it in post-production all the time, we'll get files in from a film location set.
Uh-huh.
They know what initials may be on. So if we, so that's one of the things I'm still trying, okay, so yours is MAS, I gotta figure out what DW is. Okay.
Dimwit.
What's
Let's
that?
see. It could be Dimwit. And in case Shane didn't like my,
Right. Wait, I got it. David Walsh.
there you go.
So I got your intro, your rejoin, your outro, all that stuff. Okay.
Cool.
So, and then I've got the file ready to record, which is Steve Olds and the date. Very simple. So, nobody can lose that. And that goes into the MAS file.
Okay. And then that's what you'll upload to Dropbox. Okay. So whatever we did last week was saved under something that
We saved, yeah.
is it.
And I understand I absolutely, and I told Shan, absolutely understand that was one of those shows, of all shows that should not have gone ghost. It's just tracking it down.
Can't you sort on the day something was saved? Can't you go into the File Explorer and search on?
It only went 7 files back. We did that. You know, like my computer's set up to go 35 or 40 files back.
Right.
Because I've had that happen before. But it only went 7 back. Now, again, the other thing that's kind of a bummer is this version of Adobe Audition is completely archaic. It's not like the one that I have or anything else. And in fact, if it goes untitled, if it goes ghost or it's not saved, it automatically saves under a time and date. And then it goes into an unsaved file automatically.
So you can just go find it and look it up. And
Here,
so it just goes on the hard drive someplace under some unknown name.
yeah, and I told Shane, I said, you know, I haven't lost any files except that one. I just simply do not know what happened.
Would it have been saved under? I mean, what would have been the default title? I mean, is there a default title they would have used?
That particular day, which the entire day was saved, I pulled that file up, and it was not in there. But there was a trim made. What was it? It was after the one show, there was a trim made, and it was that trim, wherever that trim went was your show, and that's what I've got for you.
I got it. Okay.
I was trying to remember it, but.
Well, I appreciate whatever you can do to find it and make my life a whole lot.
No, I
Good day to be first day on the job, right?
Well, I've just had some things happen, like this thing this morning with National. It just simply wasn't it, so.
And is that national? You said iHeart. Is that the iHeart or is it Clear Channel or?
iHeart, well, they absorbed Clear Channel.
Oh, they did. iHeart bought Clear Channel. Is that right?
I think there's some cooperative, but, you know, you never know what these big guys are doing.
Yeah.
But something like that.
You don't know how deep a this person is going to go. They know. Well, you can read the chapter book. I tell you, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break right now. Talk to the father. Here's a book. By the way, it's Amazon. He's not working today. There's 40 copies left. So it's selling out of the present. What is this thing called faith? Meditations with reflections on the sayings of Jesus by Father Yuda. This is the mayor of there. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
I'm right here.
Hey,
How you doing, man?
great. Getting another endorsement. So
Good.
It's huge.
Bring on the endorsements, brother.
Yeah. Got Indian River News, pro-life. Second Amendment. That's the next one, so
Well, that's cool. How's the campaign coming along?
good. We are just gaining ground, man. We have almost every major political official elected in the county and backing us. So that's really big. And then just from a community standpoint, it's just constant. You know, there's so many people joining forces, 30, 40-year supporters, friends are calling me up and saying, we're throwing our weight behind your campaign because we know them, we like them, but it's the differences between you can take us into the future and the other person keeps us where we're at. There's just a disconnect.
Right.
And I'm not going out there publicly saying anything because I'm not going to bash. I just don't
Right.
believe
It's
in that.
pointless.
So, but this is what I'm hearing from a lot of people. I mean, the most calls I got in a day has been 100. Of that, 15, 16 said, I've known him and you're getting our vote. Other people are new saying, hey, I heard about the movie. I heard you speak here. I heard you speak there. We're backing you. The majority of people don't know who he is unless they're in the Republican Party, you know, active within our party. So it's good.
Good deal.
Yeah. And we're going into our second phase this week. So it's good of our election.
Right on.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what I'm thinking about for this show. One of the dicey elements of what we're doing at Patriot Mission is the fact that we are a political, you know, one of our stated purposes is to grow political influence without being a political organization. So helping people understand, and we tell them, we said we don't endorse parties, candidates, or ballot initiatives. We endorse good citizenry. We endorse getting involved. We endorse finding out who wants to be a public servant, and ask you questions and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then also in the book, we talk about raising up citizen, you know, activists. We talk about, you know, business people and others that understand what's going on in the marketplace, that engage.
Right.
I mean, that's the way the elected world was supposed to be. That's why we didn't have term limits way back when.
Yeah.
As you know, the citizen servant. So, but having you know, now you look at what Facebook's doing and Google and a lot of these big organizations, and they are driving, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir. They're driving massive political influence, but that transcends all the way through, you know, businesses. You know, you can't just, I mean, my premise is the whole idea, well, I'm just gonna sit on the sides and, you know, I don't know who I might offend, so I don't want to offend any of my customers, so I'm not going to take a position. You can play that.
I got to get this
Yeah,
to
go
my
ahead.
wife. I'm sorry. Hey, babe, everything okay? I'm getting ready to go on with Steve from 11 to 12. What is it? Who's Randy? Okay, great. Sounds good. Okay, love you. Bye. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so with Google and with Google Analytics
Yeah.
and everything else.
Well, just the whole, you know, big business is driving massive political influence. The same thing is true at the state level and the local level. And there's a way to do it. There's a way to understand business. There's a way to understand the reason that you need to know what the elements are, and you got to be involved.
Yeah.
You don't have to telegraph your personal opinion to your constituents or your customers if you don't choose to, but that doesn't mean you just sit it out.
Right.
Because in effect, you're abdicating your accountability and just taking an easy road.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, we only have a half an hour, so
It goes by so quick.
yeah, 2 segments is going to go quick, you know, because your background as a business guy, but also your perspective as a Reagan intern, you know, and all the things that you've done is really powerful. So, you know, I'm interested in going back to your roots, you know, your experience, your business roots, and then also your political roots and looking at how those changed. And so the fact that you are, and I'm happy to say you're running for office, you know, it doesn't matter what the office is, doesn't matter what the party is, you're running for office. And obviously anybody in the local area who's been listening to this station for the last 3 hours already knows.
Yeah.
But that way we can, you know, we can bridge the gap. So there's a reasonable business guy, successful business guy who's got more than enough to do.
Right.
You know, at 132 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
Sleep
I don't
once
want
or
to
twice
see it,
every week, whether you need it or not, right?
Yeah. Couple
You know,
hours a night.
yeah, exactly. So those things are important. And so that's really what I'm, you know, obviously this won't be the last time we're on the radio together, but, you know, so that's the idea, just kind of warm that up.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Well, yep. And just, you take the lead and I'll just follow anywhere you want to go.
I mean, this is easy, you know, just ask a few questions and then suddenly it'll be over with, so.
I know. It's like I've been filling in for Rhett and it's a blink from 8 to 10:30 every day, or sometimes 11. It's